Hello and welcome to the 57th Planet Destiny podcast. Today we have a special guest here. Hello, sir.
I am True Vanguard, from YouTube and Twitch. Yeah.
Yay! Well, hello.
Yeah.
Hi.
He streams sometimes on the Planet Destiny channel. He's got his own channel and everything. It's great.
I got another guy on the stream, another Rezo bro.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So
The Rezo Bros. Nice.
Rezo bros.
Res Bros for life.
we're also going to have another guest come on a little bit later, Leif Johansson from Bungie. So yeah, Leif should be on later. But for now, we're just going to talk about some stuff that we've been doing in the game. Like, I don't know. We'll talk about Crimson Doubles later. I want to save that for when Leif is actually on here. But I know today there's been some big stuff that actually got released about the game.
Big stuff.
Big stuff.
More excitement in the community today than I've seen since the Taken King launched. All right, so this week in Destiny, Bungie's weekly update renamed had some really big information in it. First of all, they kind of reiterated that there'd be something new coming in spring that would be a PvE-focused expansion of sorts, and there would be a light level increase, there would be new gear to collect, and there would be more stuff to play for PvE players. And they mentioned replayability, which I found interesting wording just based on that's a lot of the wording they were using for Prison of Elders as well. They also mentioned that there'd be another expansion coming later in the year, which I think it caught me off guard. Pope called it last week, but I was really excited to hear that. And then the rumor that Destiny 2 got delayed till 2017 was confirmed by Bungie. This is the first time we've heard any comment out of Bungie about Destiny 2, and they called it a sequel.
In my opinion, it's difficult to say that the game was delayed because they never announced it. So we have an internal delay. It's an internal delay, and so I think that should be clarified. I mean, it's something that we are anticipating. We were anticipating the game sooner, though.
The announcement of the game to me has nothing to do with whether it was delayed or not. If it was delayed, it was delayed. If it wasn't delayed, it wasn't delayed. If they had scheduled it for 2016 and then it was delayed, then it was delayed. It doesn't matter if they announced it or not.
I agree, but I think that the community is talking about it right now, and I think they're using the wrong language. That's all. I think if we're here to help educate and inform the community, I think that something as important as what is an internal delay versus just hey, they published that they were supposed to be going live with this thing on this date, and then now they're having to back it up. That to me, that although that may be semantics, I believe that means a lot as to whether or not their production teams are ready.
I think it's really exciting to know that we're going to get a light level increase, new PvE content, and new weapons, like new vendor gear, all that stuff in the spring. I don't know if we'll get a new raid. I don't know if we'll get a Prison of Elders style content update. That replayability term, I do remember that getting tossed around a lot with the Prison of Elders before it was released. But I am super excited to see new PvE content coming soon, and then getting it again later in the year.
I don't necessarily think that the replayability is them coming back to like Prison Elders or them hearkening to that. I think it's more of a response to what the community is saying, that the PvE right now is stale because there's no replayability that makes sense to do. Like, strikes have no purpose to keep on playing them and so on and so forth right now. So I almost feel like this content drop is going to be some new PvE experiences, but a lot of older PvE repackaged with new things that are with it, like, rotating modifiers or something like that. And then also having potentially the drops be better. I hope that they come back and say, guys, you're right, these drops are bad. Let's actually give you some more stuff and more things to go for. A whole new set of, like Vanguard gear, Crucible gear that's going to be interesting to grab. And hopefully not just 1,000-yard stare model that we were all crowing for.
I'm actually getting ready to order one of those giant confetti cannon things, and I'm just gonna have it sitting next to my desk here. So when I finally
ready to go when you get that
1,000-yard stare, I'm just gonna just pop in, just confetti rains down everywhere. Hopefully it'll be on
like
stream.
God Bless
If not,
America
it'll be a
start
very
playing in the
lonely
background.
moment,
I think
but-
that's a
Leif,
great idea.
Leif just messaged me. He's ready whenever we are.
But yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm very, this is the first time that I've read one of those updates, even though it was small, but genuinely been like, oh my God, there's stuff coming that I'm excited about. Like, I want to see these new weapons. I want to see changes.
I liked seeing PvE content.
Yes.
I like seeing those two words together.
Yeah, a lot of people I feel like missed that second update too. That second, because the way it's worded is Deej talks about the spring update, right?
Yeah.
But then he says beyond that, the team is focused on delivering a large expansion later this year and full Destiny sequel in 2017. So that large expansion later this year kind of gets sandwiched between the last spring update paragraph and Destiny 2. So a lot of people missed that today. I think it is exciting, though. It's, we are getting 2 pieces of new content this year, and that's something aside from what the live team is doing on a bi-monthly basis. And this is kind of what we wanted, isn't it? Is we wanted those DLCs, we wanted those expansions along with the live team update. So we're getting exactly what we wanted. We just didn't know we were getting it.
We'll get it working in a second. This will be fun to edit. Is Leif here?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
What's up?
Hey!
Awesome.
Oh, doing this thing called the podcast.
Sorry I'm late, guys. I had a playtest run late. I would have been here earlier. I felt really bad.
Oh, it's fine.
All
Don't
good.
even sweat it.
I'd rather you play test stuff anyway.
Just slip 1,000-yard stare with the god rolls into my postmaster and we'll be good. We'll be good, man.
One over here as
John
well, Leif.
Wisniewski, he keeps a little pile near his desk of perfect.
Knew it.
Does he also ban people from getting them? Because could you do something about unbanning Patrick? He seems to.
I'm so alone.
He's so
alone.
alone.
I need 1,000 yards there.
He
Please.
teabagged Dev once and didn't know it, and we put him on a list.
Yeah, that's
That wasn't me.
notorious.
That was my
Patrick.
brother who used my account.
Ooh.
So we have this theory that there's only a certain amount of 1,000-yard stares that are allowed in the game at one time. So to help Patrick out, I delete one every week just to keep the stock fresh.
Keep
Right?
doing it. No, keep doing
Right.
it because I am getting one every week. It's just horribly rolled.
It's just bad. Yeah. I've been
Okay.
there.
I think week 3 of Taken King, I got a 1,000-yard stare with ambush, one-man army, quick draw, and hidden hand, and I've been using it ever since.
Oh my
I don't think
God.
I've
How do we get
dropped.
rid of this guy?
I haven't dropped. I don't think it's dropped for me.
Who invited this guy to the podcast?
Yeah, I don't know.
God.
I don't know. He just comes down here and starts throwing all the good stuff. Who does that? I do the same thing, Leif.
I saw in the chat people would like to know, Leif, who exactly you are. What do you do at Bungie?
Yeah, I'm a senior designer on the Crucible. I've worked a little bit on maps, but mostly modes and systems. Crimson Days was my more recent bit of work, but anything competitive, I probably dabbled on in some form or fashion.
Cool.
Yeah, I've been at Bungie for about 2.5 years, and before that, I worked on a few CODs, and that me and Pope Bear like talking about that every now and then. But
Oh man, you like the stories that you tell me about your Call of Duty days. Like this gentleman here is what I believe his like the ideas behind it in Black Ops are the reasons why Call of Duty is so big right now in the competitive scene, to be honest with you. Yeah, for sure, dude. Like every single thing and that's not me brown nosing. That's like if you start looking at some of the stuff that you guys put into Black Ops.
I mean,
Yeah.
I gotta throw my old team and Vonderhaar some love though. Like if Vonderhaar heard that, he'd be like, "Hey man," but absolutely like.
Yeah.
But I mean, Destiny. Yeah, I'm playing it myself, man. I've got 3 characters through Crimson Days. I'm probably floating at about 1,500 hours, which Pope Bear would probably laugh at. He'd be like, 1,500 hours? I've got like 2 characters with 1,500 hours each.
I've deleted more hours than that.
1,500 hours. 1,500 hours on each console minimum.
I've probably in my life played more Battlefield than any other competitive game, but at this point, I think Destiny's my number 2. COD's definitely my number 3. Like, I played a bunch of TF1 and CS growing up, but like, I've been playing competitive games since. Man, it's blurry. It's blurry in my head. I have to go back real far back. It's just, I can't imagine doing anything else. It's like the thing that I get out of bed and I'm like happy about. Like, it's
Cool.
like, I don't know what like. People are like, what else would you do? Be a banker or a doctor? I'd be like, man, I want to make competitive games. Like, man, even if you got problems with Crimson, like working on something like Crimson's freaking awesome. Working at a work company like Bungie's amazing. Like, oh, my wife got home. So if you guys hear anything funny, that's my lady.
All right. Well,
Cool.
I had a question for you.
Sure.
Do you know offhand who designed the roses?
I believe that was Cameron Pinard. I'm
So
worried
yeah,
I'm going to give
I
credit to the
think
wrong dude, but it was a really, really talented, awesome dude. It was
so.
one of
I
our
think
better guys and he killed it.
I just wanted you to know that like I love the way those roses look. Like there's so much detail in them. I wanted to give a shout out to. I know that sometimes the artists that work on these projects don't get the credit that, they don't get any of the credit for the work they do. So, Cameron,
No, on
thanks,
top of
man.
that,
They're beautiful.
Lindsay Ruiz, she works with VFX on PvP. She killed it on the Crimson Fury VFX. She just put that thing together. I had another guy, Matt Dudley, is another artist who's just like one of our like secret ninja assassins that helped put some of that stuff over the top. But just the little touches, like, I mean, it's crazy though. Yeah, the Bungie artists, like, they go just above and beyond. It's insane what they can do in like a day that would take other people weeks.
I need to take an actual look at what that buff looks like, because the only thing I try not to stay in their line of sight too long when someone has that buff.
For
It's
obvious
intimidating, man. You see a
It
shoulder
is.
charging dude coming
Oh.
at you with full red. It's like you're about to get it.
It's true.
Yeah, there's really nothing like a Sunsinger Warlock with that buff on. That combination of the yellow flames with the red, it's just freaking intimidating as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, it's crazy because a lot of the tricky work that goes into game mode design is like to make the like a VFX or objectives look like they don't blend into the environment. You have to make them kind of stupid looking. Like the designers are always like, make it more arcadey and make it like look like Pac-Man stuff just dropped in the middle of the levels. And the artists are like, dude, this looks horrible compared to like all this gorgeous environments around it. So like hitting that sweet spot where something looks important, but obviously like not just another super or not something that blends with the environment is like a really hard balance. Like the artists like work really hard to try to make it look like it's important, but also not look like it's just hitting you over the face.
Absolutely. That's also a really good thing. Like when the Spark Runner has it, a great job of how the spark doesn't look out of place in the game. It looks intentional in the game world, just like you said, not looking cartoony.
Like it's easy to say we'll just deal with UI. We'll just like fill the screen with 3D icons and be like, well, of course that's the objective. But like, in the heat of combat, when you're near that thing, you're not going to see the UI. You will see the VFX and the art.
So I wanted to get into the discussion of Crimson, or the Crimson Doubles game mode a little bit. How did you guys decide on the elimination game type being used for this event? Because previously we've had skirmish. We've had skirmish.
You really kind of have to think about the high level constraints first. Like I like building the box that I need to work in before I start overthinking like what I want to put in the box. And in this case, it was like, the scope was a major constraint. Like we really had to be careful that we didn't like just go overboard and have something that like would make a better fit for like something that justified like full gear sets and being put on a more major release. Like, the constraint right off the bat was, hey, this is like a Valentine's Day thing, and that means that players are pretty much going to play it once a year. Like if we make it something so awesome, it'd be like, I'm like, man, I need to put this in the rotators. Like it couldn't be oversized. That constraint alone was like, man, it has to be fairly derivative and also really speak to like what are the emotions I associate with Valentine's. And then the mode, the idea of elimination versus skirmish, because it was like we did doubles last year. I love doubles. I feel like doubles deserves the spotlight. Doubles was like this underserved thing that really played great last year, but it's like didn't really have like its moment in the sun. It was like, well, this is perfect for Valentine's. And it really came down to skirmish, elimination, or something new. The reason I tilted more towards like elimination was I feel like skirmish is deceptively snowbally. Like you really, like you get two guys, they lose a team fight. The team that wins the fight now controls the center, gets special ammo, and there's a decent chance that the team that's respawning gets basically put in bad position. They have to like unintuitively regroup reposition themselves and then actually get back into a fight, and that might not be as noticeable. Like as far as accessibility, that might not be as noticeable to low skill players, that they're losing because they're basically getting split up. Elim on the surface seems less accessible because it's like it has the flavor of a more hardcore game type, but having fresh starts, like quick goes, like, you know, you win the team fight, that pretty much cleans the round out, I felt actually was in some ways like close to the mark of like correct. And the twist that I wanted to put on it was basically a rubber band. I was like, hey, like maybe I can buy accessibility dollars by building, you know, a buff or a mechanic that, you know, swings it back. That way, if you're playing this mode that feels really hardcore, you know, and somebody goes down, you know, the rubber band puts you back in it and makes the 2v1 more interesting than it currently is in Elim, and that's what that'll make casuals feel, if they're first to die, that they're not leaving their teammate frustrated. And on top of that, the 1v2 is interesting even if you lose it. You don't feel like, well, I might as well just wait for my grenade to come back and go for like a miracle snipe. Otherwise, this is like a mess. Like I wanted the 2v1 to feel like the two-person team still has an advantage because we don't want to trivialize the fact that they did get a kill, but there's just a more interesting dance. But I didn't know what the buff was, and that was just a whole other set of iteration trying to figure out what the right buff was.
It ended up being really fun. The buff makes you feel like a superhero, you know, like when your friend goes down, when your teammate goes down, you almost go into like a super overdrive. It's just fun to be that guy.
And
when you reload, you're just reminded about how powerful you are.
Is it like the speed combination with regenerating your health definitely adds to that.
Yeah.
It's really deceptive. Like I got a lot of notes when we were iterating on it, particularly from like mid to low skill players, that they were not feeling it enough and they wanted to crank it harder. And even the high skill players were like, I don't know, I think you go a little further. And the thing that we were looking at was bonus aim assist, but the sandbox designers were like, dude, that's going to make the guns feel really weird because they're going to handle in ways that you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, don't do that.
And then damage resistance, and I was like, look, damage resistance, while making you feel powerful, is deceptive if it's not enough damage resistance to change the bullets to kill that your bone's throwing at you.
Yeah.
It could create bad engagements that if basically you're having your 1v1 and I'm having mine, and you lose yours first, and my buff kicks in at a weird time, it could save me in a way that's like mid bullets. And on top of that, like DR has like weird repercussions on like, you know, sticky grenades not killing, like you know, golden guns possibly not killing in certain circumstances, because the crimson buff stacks with like all these other like overshields, flame shield. I was just scared of DR, and it was basically the last trick in my bag that I hope I never had to reach for. And I was really happy that the buff felt like you had to be clever with it and set up your stuff to basically 2v1 correctly, and that if you were playing too loose, that you just run into team shot and die. But if you use it for baiting, if you use it for like really careful revive play, if you use it to basically drag somebody out into 1v1 so you can use it to your advantage, like it should feel like there's some sort of skill curve to using the buff correctly. And that's been my happiest thing, is that casuals think it feels cool and high skill players feel like, you know, that they can't just use it in a sloppy way. You have to be thoughtful how you use the buff. Like I was hoping it would be a little bit more pizza and beer than it is. Like
Right.
That would be nice.
For some players, it's true. Like I've been hearing people at work that are like lower skill be like, yeah, we paired up and played some matches and it was like pretty chill. And I'm like, the second you start getting in the higher skill brackets, it's like people bring knives, forks, and torches, and it's like you really have to play pretty rough.
Lots of thorns.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
People are playing pretty hard, and you know,
Do you think
like,
the
my mental process for that is like, man, maybe I needed to find like some mayhem flavor juice. Like, what could I pour into the concoction to make people take it less seriously?
Right.
I feel like I hit the sweet spot for certain players, but for a bunch of players, I feel like it's not loose and laughy. Like, I mean, the chocolate ghost, sparkly ghost are a good clue. That's like, yeah, this, like in the bounties, that like this isn't that serious. Like you can probably just chill, but it doesn't play that way. That's definitely like the note I've been hearing. But I'm also hearing that they're having lots of fun, even though it's like more competitive than expected. It's within the striking distance, but not quite what I was hoping. Not quite right bullseye.
Do you think level advantages being disabled for this particular mode could probably have lent to that a little bit? I mean, because you don't see Thorn in Trials of Osiris or Iron Banner or anything like that, and
the big issue there was like how many pieces of content. I was hoping that people would play it similar how they play regular Crucible, and that level advantages comes with other baggage for this particular experience, especially if it's like I got a lot of friends that are like, yeah, I'm like 302 light and I play with you, but I hate that I can't soldier charge. I struggle with sticky grenades. Like I usually like using sticky grenades. Like it's a little bit intimidating for mixed skill parties. I mean, the note that walked away from is that there's year one gear that we just need to keep an eye on for just general balancing. Like our balance packs aren't restricted to year two. We're targeting April for some changes, but that list hasn't finalized. But not having level advantages has consequences, and there's definitely advantages. Like I looked at it pretty seriously, but I thought it kind of like went against the tone of the event. Like level advantage to me says like bring your best stuff, where I was hoping people were like, oh, I'm gonna goof off and freaking you bring my old universal remote and my freaking necrochasm. And like every forum post that I saw where people are saying like they were just using like shadow price and like old school stuff, that stuff would put a smile on my face, and I was hoping to go deeper down that road.
I did use the necrochasm. I used the necrochasm for the bounty, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's cool to see lots of different guns in there, and I think some of the accessibility piece of it led to there's kind of like this. I found that the drop rate was a little slower than I thought it should have been, but and I think that some people were going in, and an unfortunate byproduct of that is people just like suiciding or jumping off the map just to get through the burn through the rounds and get the loot. And it was almost like, oh man, this is a lot of fun. If you're playing people your skill, it's just like you get matched up against somebody, you get ready for the game, and then they start killing themselves. So.
And there's a lot of factors, so many factors. I honestly feel for you devs. There's so many things that you have to consider.
Huge amount.
You got when you're considering how the pace of the game. Yeah, one of the things that is promoting people to do exactly that, the suiciding to get the loot, is the fact that these games, because of just general map design, how big they are, people playing it. For example, I had a match on Pantheon that took I think it was 16 minutes total. And to play 16 minutes and not get a drop, I can understand someone getting frustrated and then just wanting to suicide to kind of speed up that process. So I know there's just so many things you guys have to consider to get that sweet spot, what you want.
No, absolutely. Like the rewards are definitely like my read of SRL was that certain aspects of the rewards were a little rich for for pacing. And I say that as a person that got totally hosed on my scarf. I worked really hard to get I got one scarf that entire event that was 305, and I think I probably played 35 SRAW matches in one sitting trying to get my scarf to drop, and it just didn't happen for me. But even then, in that world, I still felt like, I was getting purple helmets. I have this huge stack of 310 plus purple helmets, and I think we looked at the numbers today, and that the ghosts for Crimson Days isn't far off that number. It's a little bit lighter, and I was total reverse. I got on 3 characters. I think I got 7 ghosts yesterday.
Whoa!
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, you guys can look. My highest was 318. I've got 2 chocolates and 4 sparklies. Each of my characters has 2 each, and
nowhere near that.
Yeah,
I don't
have a single
for sure.
one.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's
So I played 6 hours on the first day and 4 hours on the second. So out of 10 hours, I got 1 ghost.
Yeah, I got about 6 hours in and I haven't gotten any.
10 hours, no ghosts.
You guys are basically describing something that should not happen. It's either a bug in the table or,
Well, that's actually really great to hear that might be a bug in the table, though, because I'd much rather think that there's something with the drop rate issue as opposed to it being intentional. Because if it was intentional, then it's like, guys, that is just unacceptable for a week-long event.
I put out a Twitter poll asking, hey, what do you guys think? And over 50% of people that played Crimson Doubles thought that it was fun or great. Those 50% of the people of I think it was 800 people that took the poll said it was fun or great, versus they didn't like it or it was the worst thing since Hitler. So that those were kind of the options, right?
Hitler doubles.
Something that True Vanguard brought up earlier is that it might be lower skilled players that are finally. What were you saying? It was about lower skilled players that.
Yeah, some of the feedback that I was receiving is that it's the more casual players who are getting paired up against casual people who are enjoying it, and rightfully so, and having a little bit more of a fun time. But it's on the higher end of the skill bracket that you see so little weapon diversity. You see, and even subclass diversity. The teams that are going full tryhard to the max, you're going to see double Sunsinger with Thorn. And people exploiting ways of getting special ammo in round one. And that kind of saps the fun out of it and makes you feel like you're playing in something that's supposed to have a laid-back, light atmosphere. It makes it feel like you're in a highly competitive atmosphere where you can't relax, where suddenly for example, I have matches playing Crimson Doubles where I'm going into it with my Telesto and my Satarian Rapier from year one that I just always have fun with. And as I'm inspecting my opposition, I see the most try-hard stuff possible. And I know because it's skill-based matchmaking that if I derp around, I'm going to lose. And frankly, I don't like to lose. I mean, I'm not all about winning, but no one enjoys getting their butt handed to them. So, of course, I'm forced to go with my best stuff.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. It's a pretty classic design problem. It's like,
yeah,
the amount of like fury players will put on your game if they're basically playing for inches. Like, I'm in the boat. Like, I was playing with Triple Rec, last night, and like anytime we had a tough match, I'm like, man, I should put on my business suit. Like, why am I goofing off with like these other guns? Like, even when there's no incentive, it's just like you're just like, man, I just paired me up with some killers. Like, I got to show these guys what's up. What am I doing? Like,
So how do you promote weapon diversity? That's the question. How do you promote that? Do you do it with bounties? We have seen that you can do some creative things with these playlists, though. Are there things that you can do even with weapon balancing within just a playlist alone? Can you do that, where you can just manipulate how weapons work within a playlist as opposed to just blanket, modifications?
It's a really dangerous precedent because it splinters the game in ways that are actually really hard to support. Like, a classic example of like, this is like an old problem. Like, I remember I was working on Call of Duty years back, and we had the marathon perk, and we also had the, that item that lets you respawn tactical insertion. And we're like, hey, tac insert is mandatory to play demolition, and marathon or extended sprint is super optimal in like capture the flag because it's mobility. Like, the second you start saying like, oh man, we're going to alter the way that this thing functions to make sure that there's more choices on what you load out for a given experience, creates a hard bottleneck on the quantity of experience you have. And if there's only a certain percentage of the player base that basically is like playing the meta hard, it's like you have to like always support your game. Like you can't let your sandbox be solved and people are using the same stuff. You need that weapon diversity, but the second you start branching it, it's like it could become almost overwhelming if you actually plot it out, like how many experiences, like the value of fast res in trials as opposed to the value of fast res in Clash, which is non-existent, versus the value of fast res in Strikes versus that's almost like a full-time team's job, and it's at the expense of creating new content, like new guns, new abilities. It's just a really careful balancing act. I mean, but at the end of the day, to answer your question, like, what do you do? It's like, yeah, you gotta hit those balance patches, man. You gotta break up that meta. You gotta keep things like fresh. Right. You gotta find a way to make people feel comfortable, like using more of their gear. Like, there's no group of gear in Destiny that we've pointed at and said we're not supporting that gear. As far as we're concerned, like there's a wide pool of stuff, and that players shouldn't be like feel like they're cheating on their Mida when they use their Suros.
Yeah.
Well, do you feel like with the current state of skill-based matchmaking, do you feel like there's a lot of room for adjustment or improvement on it for how you know, like high skill players go into doubles. If you have two high skill players going there, it is sweat after sweat after sweat after sweat. It's like you got to have your try hard pants on tight. And do you think that should be that way? Do you think like that was can you adjust it per playlist, you know, with the skill based matchmaking? Because like it'd be nice to have maybe a try hard game and then like, I don't know, 3 or 4 beers and pizza games. You know what I mean?
Like the beer and pizza games are like a deceptively hard problem because it's what would you expect the win rate for top, you know, 10% of player base be? Like 60, they win 60% of their games, 55% of their games.
85-90.
85-90, like that's if it's 85-90, it's like
I'm just kidding.
They're not getting
not
matched up.
right.
I'm kidding. Like,
yeah, they're not getting
like,
matched up against.
Remember that? You know how they always showed your win percentage in Call of Duty. So and then you everybody used to like check your win loss percentage, you know, before they matched up with you. Super big deal. Super big deal. What's your win loss? Yeah. But yeah,
I mean, I see what you're saying. Like, if in order for high skill players to have like a 60-40, majority of the time they have to get matched up against high skill players, because that 40% of the time they're going to get knocked down by people of that skill.
It's a really like important and deep philosophical question, because you could argue in Call of Duty there's rubber band mechanics and investment systems that make low skill players less sensitive to the fact that they have a sub 50% win rate, that they basically have other objectives. You know, you get grenades on respawn. If you have a long life because you're having a good life, you get less grenades. If you're shooting lots of dudes, you're giving your position away on your mini map. If you're a noob that's respawning a lot that hasn't shot, like you have, like, it's more of a positional game. And because of it, like, you know, there's more room for high skill players to be match made with low skill players in a way that doesn't make the low skill players feel like they're being smothered. But, you know, that compromises a lot of the core gameplay, and it changes so much things fundamentally. That's like, it's a hard balancing act. Like death streaks, I was one of the big advocates for cutting death streaks out of COD, and like a lot of the argument was like, we need rubber banding specifically as a backstop to when we mix high skill with low skill. And in Destiny, I don't feel that like there's room, or even it would be that good to basically litter the game with a lot of rubber band mechanics. Like, you get supers if you're struggling. You get
can you
only
explain what
special
rubber banding is?
Oh, rubber banding is the opposite of snowballing. It's basically like if a team is struggling, the game has mechanics to put money in their pocket to help get them back in. For example, League of Legends, like if you kill a player that's underperforming, they're worth less gold, and if you kill a player that's performing really well, you get more gold. Like they have like stealth mechanics that basically try to get the team that's losing back in it. Death streaks is the more like on the nose example. It's like literally it's a benefit.
The physical example of that in
Mario Kart
Sparrow Racing League is the gates opening up and getting wider the farther you fall back, and the more boost you get from each gate.
It's true. And SRL is, I think, a great example of where you could mix low skill with high skill, and then, like, the high skill player has to play perfect. But even if they're far ahead, like the low skill players could be jockeying for third, fourth, and fifth, and it doesn't feel like they're getting dunked on. Yeah. You know, in most of Destiny, though, because you don't have like those tricks to basically like hide a 40% win rate, what is a high skill player's pizza and beer playlist, because he's being match made with low skill players, for that low skill player, because of the 40% win rate, he's having a sweatier time than anything that high skill players ever experience, because high skill players have never been put in a situation where they're losing most of their engagements or
right.
Yeah, it's like,
that is a really philosophical question. I had not actually, like, I've been on this end of the line just bitching about it, you know, to be honest with you. And it's a very comfortable place to be, because ignorance is, it's just this really,
ignorance is bliss.
It's this beautiful place where I just sit here and, you know, point fingers and stuff, and it's great. So this is like, I'm seeing like the philosophical, like, question that you have to get into to create a playlist like this. Have you considered in making a playlist for the community? Like, I was a huge fan of Gun Game.
Oh my god, Gun Game would be amazing.
I get really nervous about like elitist playlists that you go to and you feel like you're not a member of the club, like you're visiting. My favorite thing about playlists like Gun Game is you feel like, you know, it's your playlist, even if you're not having like the best time, because you're you know, going through all the guns, you're trying things out. good party games feel like home. And like when people tell me that they have like a special connection to like Mayhem, and that when Mayhem's gone, they feel like there's like something missing in their ecosystem. I was like, dude, I get it,
Fizzer and
man.
Inferno. Jeez.
Or Fizzer Inferno, like games like World of Warcraft, people go on dates, they put a ring on it, they get married, and then, you know, they leave for a while to see other games, but those games are they're just dabbling. They go back to basically like the game they're married to, and competitive playlists often are the same way. At least in I think a healthy ecosystem, there's tends to be one or two that's like your bread and butter that like it just plays the way you want it. And when, you know, somebody touches something or twists a knob, or like, you know, they introduce a bug that messes with your home, that's like more personal than if somebody like, you know, makes a change to one of the other playlists, you know, on in COD that was like a hardcore playlist.
Yep.
That was, you know, those guys were really protective of their ecosystem and felt neglected. And, you know, and other like, you know, when we're looking at party game modes, it's like that sense is really important, because it's like it has to have just a little bit enough of it legs where you feel like, you know, it's not a total sideshow and like it just superficial and anyone can have fun, but like you're gonna get bored of it in 2 weeks, which is really easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
Can also be the reverse, where it's like, you know, you find yourself taking it seriously every time you play it, and by the time you played it 5 times in a row, you feel like you can only play it seriously. Like, you know, a great party game mode is just has to find that like just that notch, and it does. It finds like a pretty good place in the ecosystem where everyone knows you can go there for a good time and like a cool down. It's the thing that you play at the end of a night when you've spent all your sweat.
So,
like,
so here's the thing though. Right now, as somebody who gets matched up against a lot of people that want to try hard, I don't feel like I have a party playlist unless it's Mayhem. And do you think? Now, this is going to be a hot topic, and I don't mean to drop this on you right now, but
you're going to.
Do you
I'm going
think-
anyway.
But I'm going to. Do you think if we had custom matches, so people who were high skilled that could continue to match up against other high skilled players in the community that want to do that, would weed out a lot of that every time I go in the Crucible, I can't relax type of thing for somebody who wants to, as opposed to, you know, so that population could then go and match up and have tournaments and that type of thing? Because I feel like that's what's happening right now. That high skill pool is getting really angsty because there's no way of consistently matching up against each other for choice of connection and all that, you know?
Right.
I'm
In addition to that, not to cut you, just add to that piece,
I know what you're going to say, but keep going.
or a ranked
I know this is a hot
playlist.
topic, and I'm sorry to bring it up.
You know, or a ranked playlist. I mean, like a
I
legitimate.
knew you would say that.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Pope.
It's all right. It's just something I've been harping on for you for a while.
I could tell the look on your face. I was like, I know exactly what you're going to say.
Yeah.
I'll give you a complex answer.
All right.
Love it. I'm down for
Definitely more yes than no. I love private matches, custom games. Like, there's all sorts of complexity as to putting it together, and you know where it lives in our ecosystem. Like all sorts of deceptive challenges, why finding its way into the game one day, or it's struggling to be this thing that we can deliver in the short term. Like there's all sorts of realities behind it, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like what it actually does for the ecosystem.
Right.
I could argue very easily, playing devil's advocate more so than I have most times in my life, because I really believe in the thing. Private matches, because they're very hard to integrate into the investment game, and because they have a high social friction, because you have to arrange it yourself, there's basically a barrier of entry that it doesn't scratch the itch for as many players as you'd think, because even players that are interested in like going hard are in love with the convenience of the match-made playlists. I mean, if the like resistance to the fire team only playtest, I think illustrates like how much more difficult it would be to make private matches like a really important cornerstone of like the Crucible play and what you do in an average session. But that's all devil's advocate. On the other hand, I'm like, I agree. It's like if there's a place for that, it drains the swamp. And honestly, like that's the only reason. Well, I shouldn't say that. That was one of the principal reasons that Black Ops 2 League play, when I was fighting for it for so many years back, that it really got traction, is because it was this idea that like, hey, like we don't want these full 6-person parties like trying to like roam the public playlists, just wailing the countryside. Like if we build a place that they really enjoy, and then where they can get that out, by the time that they've like done that, they'll come back to these normal playlists to like lessen the mood to basically like stir trouble. And in
Mhm.
hindsight, I feel like it's true that when you have these places that like are just it's more understood that that's where you go to do that. It does, I think, bring down like the level of tension and ferocity in the base playlists. But
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that's hypothetical. Like Destiny, its own IP, it has its own unique community and player base, and there's all these other factors that go into it. Just as Crimson Days surprised me every day on like how competitive it is or isn't, or how accessible it is or isn't. Like a lot of that stuff's an open question of what it would actually do for the game. Like we could believe in those features and still not be entirely confident that that's exactly the issue it address. Like, I
Right.
mean,
Mhm.
opt-in voice was supposed to do a bunch of things, like, and I'm glad we put in opt-in voice, but like the way the community demanded opt-in voice, early, D14 Destiny, like it didn't do what people thought it would do. People are happy to have it, but it's still this like, who knows what more additional steps you need and features and possibly years of development to basically build the thing that actually does what we want it to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I hear you, and I appreciate the answer on it. So what I've seen on Twitch and how the community has taken, I'm sure you're aware of like people going to classic playlists and trying to match up against each other. It seems like there's so many steps that the community has taken to try to enable this ability to just play against the people that they want to play against, as opposed to going in publicly or into public matches. And I get that like it's a much smaller percentage. I totally get that. But at the same time, that percentage is a lot more viewed in terms of YouTube and Twitch, you know?
I'm not gonna devalue that for a split second. And like, I mean, I'll go a step further. This is what I was talking to Triple Rec last night about. That on one hand, it's really inspiring that we've got a community that is engaged enough and just outright cool enough that they're willing to go the extra mile to like get the experience they want out of the game. But
Mhm.
as a designer, not even a game designer, just as like a person that just does design for a living, something that inconvenient, like that's fundamentally inconvenient, is like if I opened up an iPhone and I had to like, enter a code to get it to do the thing that I want to do, just to open a basic app, like, or a car designer that's like that. There's a trick that you need to do to start the car because the designers like decided to put the ignition in the glove box. It's like painful when people have to like do massively inconvenient things to make the machine do the thing they want to do. The thing that I go to sleep thinking about, my like utopian ideal for game design, is you can put the disc in like half asleep from coming off work, get 15 minutes of play, feel like you got 11 minutes of awesome out of that 15 minutes, and you could put it away and like watch Netflix with your kid, and that's clean as possible. That is as streamlined. There's like minimal loading screens, that like whatever, if you can get that out of the disc, like I can sleep well at night. And the fact that there's anything that interrupts that, like one of my favorite stories is one of the things I'm most proud of in my life is being able to set the default executable on BO1 to competitive, because those 15
Yes.
seconds of popping in the disk to basically like get to the thing you want. And if I found another way to do that, there was an easy way to get into matchmaking with less buttons. If, BO1 in-game friends list was basically because Xbox Live friends list was too slow. It was costing you seconds, and that this utopian ideal of like these 15-minute sessions would get in the way. And if as players, you guys have an experience that you have to go into the classic player list and like range all this stuff, it's like so opposite of that ideal. It's like drives me nuts. And I'm like, man, we need to do this better. But, the real like the expensiveness, the priorities, the design work, there's so many barriers like and obstacles to basically like do that, to solve that problem. But
I would completely agree that most players probably wouldn't even use this, but I would argue that even the players who didn't use it would see the benefits from it, just from seeing competitive play, easily played, like seeing tournaments on Twitch, or, maybe supported by Activision and MLG, seeing this stuff would just, it'd be really enjoyable for Destiny players who didn't necessarily use the private matchmaking. It'd make the entire Crucible experience just more fun as a spectator. So even if I never actually logged into private matchmaking, I still might enjoy that feature just because I get to watch, my favorite two teams go head to head, or a great Destiny tournament on MLG.TV or something like that.
no, man, you don't have to convince me. I'm with you. It just, the games, it's a big space, and it's like, you'd be surprised the number of things that like seem easy and then there are things that are like deceptively hard. I don't know anyone, or I haven't met anyone recently at Bungie that's like, I don't understand why people are asking for that. It's just not a belief. Like people get it. Yeah, no one devalues the Twitch streamers or the spectator experience or the YouTube experience or just being able to walk around a map that just came out. Like if there's a new map that's released and you just want to check it out, like that's not a hardcore experience we're talking about. We're talking about a fairly common use case of people just wanting to check out what's in the game like conveniently. And there's a lot of little cases like that it covers. If you come up with a list of everything the game needs right now and you realize like, what could be the potential bottlenecks as far as engineering or UI or audio, like it's tough, man.
Yeah, for sure. I think when we look at something awesome like so Crimson Days, right? And you see the potential for varying playlists and the way that they can galvanize the community to get together and play and have fun with the live events. Picking your brain and seeing what you like and what you value is really important for us because it helps us to understand what we may be getting in the future, or the direction that Bungie's going with playlists in general. I think that the idea behind PvP right now is that it's content that we can access and play with our friends while there's a lack of content, right? And so there's a lot of interest and focus on PvP. So there's a lot of really good questions and ideas being floated around on the community. And where do you go to if you're the community right now and you have a cool idea for a playlist or you want to help influence what's going on, where do you go to read that stuff? Where do you see and it influences you?
Oh man, I'm on like Destiny Reddit probably twice a day. I try to catch people, like if that stuff gets upvoted, I see it for sure, and that gets kicked around. And I know that the other designers do that as well. I mean, I use the Bungie forums as well, but honestly, I have a little bit of a harder time like sorting through it, trying to find like the gems.
I understand that.
Yeah,
Not the best interface on there for navigating.
It's crazy because like an idea will start like as one very specific thing, but once it's gotten kicked around, Bungie, it comes out in another incarnation that you wouldn't expect. We're lucky that people care that much. They're like pitching ideas. I've read some pretty sick stuff on both forums actually, and it's just tough because like PvP, it might be one very specific piece of tech that we need to do that, and then immediately that's like, well, now we need to like make it bigger if we're gonna be associating tech with it. It's like there's a specific scope for the mode that's associated with. Like you can't have this mismatch where like it's really easy for the designers to make a pretty decently sized experience, but it comes with a huge engineering cost along with it, and you're like, man, if we're spending that, we might as well go bigger. Like there's just always the machine's always unpredictable in that sense.
It's a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
One of the coolest things we saw with update 2.1.1 is the changes you guys made to special ammo. I was wondering, what was the thought process into changing that and seeing that come into Crimson Doubles? That's like everybody's first like experience with the new special ammo changes. I was wondering what you guys felt about that, how it's been.
I feel like people agree with the spirit of it, which is like, the primary versus primary encounters are really good, and some of the 3v3 game types felt like they were just a little bit too dependent on special weapons, and that you basically like if you're dealing with hardscope snipers and shotgun rushers just a certain quantity of the match, it feels like you're missing out on that primary versus primary. And like on top of that, like trying to have more gameplay associated with CZ and special ammo crates and being like, well, we're going to rush those dudes because we know what special ammo they're camping is more interesting like than just having it right off the bat. There's definitely pros and cons to it, but like special ammo in general is a really difficult mechanic, like on multiple levels to iterate on, because it services so many different like experiences and archetypes. Like it makes me sad that every time we iterate on it, we know that there's going to be some pain associated with it, but we really got to take it for a ride and see what it was about. And even if it was a leaky bucket with icebreaker and the sidearm, like it's like it's been fun, man. I've been enjoying it. I've been playing a lot, and like, you know, knowing that they're not going to be hard scope sniping me at the start of the round one is cool. Like I feel like man, here's my window. We'll see what happens. And even if I lose, I'm like, yeah, like at least I didn't get like run into hard scopes.
No Land Beyond.
Well, I gotta say that one of the things I really appreciate about the special ammo nerf is that it addresses the imbalance of special use to primary use without actually affecting how the special weapons behave and how they perform. So, because the problem is when you continually nerf the special weapons themselves, you're gonna have a huge wave of negative feedback because so many people are so attached to shotguns and snipers that they're gonna absolutely hate that.
What about pulse rifles?
I like, yeah. You mean pulse rifles? You mean fusion rifles? You're talking about fusion? I knew what you meant. Dude, I'd love to see some more. I've been pushing for Fusion Friday tomorrow in Trials, but we'll see if it happens.
Fusion
but anyways,
Friday.
I appreciate
Look out for that guy. He's an assassin.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. But yeah, just all that to say, I do appreciate how the nerf itself doesn't affect the performance of the weapons, but still addresses the issue.
Yeah.
I'm with you, man.
Agreed.
Yeah, credit to Sandbox and the PvP designers that worked on that. Like, I've been giving notes on special ammo, but kind of letting them iterate and find their way, and I like where they're going. I feel like they're definitely on top of it right now. Special ammo is a common conversation around our desks. We're looking at it pretty aggressively.
It's really difficult for Leif has a specific job at Bungie. He's he works with PvP, and some of the questions that they're asking me to ask you or ask you to bring up into this conversation are out of your wheelhouse. And we completely appreciate you being on this podcast and answering the questions and venturing into talking about stuff. But he doesn't deal with some of the questions that you guys are asking. So we're going to try to focus on the Crimson days, his work with the live team, you got a chance to work with the live team for this project, but you're not on it, right? You're not technically on the
for sure.
How was that put together? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, but right before I answer your question, I just for the sake of the people that are asking probably PvE questions, like I like to say multiple times, it's like Bungie's a 700-person company, and it's full of people that are like really, really good, really like shockingly good at the things that are on their plate. And it's pretty common for you to ask people like, "Hey, man, like, what's going on with this aspect of the game?" And you're like, "Man, I've been into my stuff pretty deep. Like, I'm friends with those guys. Like, I hear things. Often when I interact with the community, they'll ask me questions about PvE, and I'm like, I know slightly more than you, and there's a good chance that if I spoke on it, even if I knew what I was talking about, that the information's changed, or I'm misrepresenting another professional's like position or their work, or because I don't have their skill set, I'm accidentally trivializing something that's really difficult. It's actually really tough in my case when somebody like, well, I have another Bungie dev basically try to speak to the challenges of my job, and it's like, it's tough, man. It's like even if you've done it for a few years, you're still trying to grasp how difficult it is to do like really simple things. Like I work on spawning for PvP. Spawning is one of the most complex things I've ever encountered in my entire life. Even somebody that had worked on spawning for a year is probably still ramping up on how challenging like certain aspects of that system are. Just most of the things in the game, like I have all the respect in the world for the raid designers, and raid designers tell me like, this is what we can do along this period of time. There's not an inch in my body that's basically like, oh, I wonder if they just did this instead of that. Like, I wonder if they could do that better or faster. I'm like, man, that is a black hole. It's an alternate universe to me. Like, they're in that content. They're looking at that content like 8 hours a day for years, trying to figure out how to make it better. The battle scars and the wounds you get from basically cut content, false starts, stuff that was working, right, that fell apart in your hands, like stuff that didn't play test well. Like, like you wear those lessons out, and like, one of the most humbling parts of my job is to have to tell an animator that's worked at Pixar that his animation or her animation doesn't quite work for an experience that I'm working on, knowing full well that like the thing they do, there's probably only a handful of people in the world that can do it as well as they can, and it's not quite right. and I might be asking for something that's completely unreasonable as a designer, and that I have this mandate so that I'm protecting the player experience, but really I'm looking at animation that I fully don't understand the work and craft and care that went into getting this thing just the way it is. Like I said, a 700-person company where there's entire sections. But yeah, same thing with the live team. What's it like working with the live team? Like, same deal. Like, they have to think about timeframes and windows, drills, and be nimble in ways that some of the other teams in the building just don't understand. Like, they have to deal with resource constraints and deliverables in ways that we can spend, like, my team can spend years working on stuff, getting it right, dropping it. Like, the live team, because their windows are so much smaller, like, they just have to be so much leaner and more careful and more risk averse. It's really easy for a live team to overplay their hand or to take on so much risk, and there's literally no time to react because they spent all their dollars basically like reaching, trying to get some, like, push their team beyond their limits, and they just don't have the times. Working out with them at Crimson Days was really a pleasure because they believed in the vision. They respected, the mode work. They believed in that core, and they really just made plays. They're like, man, like, let's just pour awesome. Let's see what resources we can get. They just kept it loose. The live team's really sophisticated, and they knew full well that Crimson Days was going to drop into a content route, and that it could be seen as, or perceived as a, as a loss aversion. Like, oh, you're giving me this at the expense of that, and that would put, like, a dark shadow on the experience. Anything comes out, like, even the slightest bit sketchy, like, they're their own worst critics, and it's like, the rest of these other teams at Bungie just don't have those types of challenges, and particularly that the live team is like on like frontier ground. There's not a lot of live teams on console for major shooters. Like they're inventing things. It's crazy. Like it was really a privilege to work with them, and I really feel like they killed it on Crimson Days, and did everything they could to support me. And like, I'm pretty excited to see what they're working on next. I'm just hoping that the community digs what they're doing. And
I think the community has had a fairly like positive response to the Crimson Days game mode. I'm hoping that you probably can't confirm this, but time was clearly put into this, and maybe just like Sparrow Racing League, we could see it come back in a future update. Improvements made to matchmaking so we can get more of that pizza and beer type thing.
Pizza and beer.
Pizza and beer. Pizza and beer.
I want that game mode.
I echo that. The game mode itself is actually a fresh change of pace. It doesn't play like everything else, and I think that you guys really nailed the buff. I know you talked about that a bit earlier, but we didn't get to say anything from our perspective. But I thought the buff, it plays out really well, and it makes you, even when you are the two-man team that's up, it makes you really consider how you're going to approach that engagement. I find myself dropping supers 1v1 a lot more when I'm going against a guy with that buff, more so than I do. Generally I just trust my ability to outgun somebody, but it really does. It makes an interesting change of pace, and I appreciated that.
That makes me happy to hear. Like, it was definitely the toughest thing to iterate on for the entire mode, because it made the mode, honestly, it's just, it's doubles with a twist, and the twist is the drama. It's like the hook, right? And if it was mistuned, I really feel like it might have collapsed the entire event.
Right.
Sure. Been like, yeah, doubles with this thing that we don't like. Like, can't we just have doubles? This is a once a year thing. Like, man, like, it has to hit that sweet spot. And I'm actually worried. People were like, dude, put it in the rotators. What are you doing? Like, I'm like, oh, God damn it. Not my call, though. Like, the live team, I think ultimately will figure out, like, do we save it for a special thing, or do we, like, we just mix it up? Like,
yeah, just turn the buff green, and it's St. Patrick's Day now. There you go.
That's right.
That's all you got to do. I'll give you that one for free.
Everybody shoots crooked.
One of the things that I think people are concerned with is that they're going to get to the end of this week-long event, and in a loot-based game where getting, the loot is one of the goals, they're going to get to the end of this week pretty soon here. We're not too far away, and they're not going to have their ghosts. They're not going to have their shaders, and that's striking a balance, it's really hard. And if there's anything you take back from this community podcast is that, even if I'm dismantling half the crap, right? Even if I get to just, give me the love, make it rain. When I think of Valentine's Day, I think of candy and hearts and loves and kisses and sex. So these
I
are
find
things.
it crippling loneliness is more the current one, but do continue, Hope.
But anyway,
Harsh meta.
so that's the thing that I feel when I think of Valentine's Day. These type of live events really need to engage the community with more access to the loot, and even if that means that it's Spare Racing League type drops, I think that's one of the things that made people really happy about playing and racing that. So,
I agree. Like, just to be clear, the design intent from the get-go was that a player should be able to finish the event in roughly 20-ish matches. If we have players that feel like there's aspects of the reward that they can't acquire past 20 matches, definitely past 30 matches, and it feels like you haven't finished the event, the only case that I'm like willing to basically say tough luck on is to get rolling an exact 320, and even that is probably suspicious. The issue with the drop rates on the Ghost, making players feel like they can't finish the event, like the event is like just the scratch that you can't itch. I consider that unintended. It could have gone much worse. The fact when people finish the bounties and they're like, there's no daily bounties, I was like, yeah, you don't have to log in every day, man. And we don't have to tune the rewards to basically take into account that daily things exist, was like super intended. And it really didn't bother me that the community was like, hey, what the hell, we finished. I'm like, I know, it's a week, you don't need to log on, you can finish it in 2 nights and it's over. If you want to do more dudes, you roll it on more characters, like almost as an experiment. Like, not every event needs to have that philosophy, but this one in particular, it was hoping it would do that. And the Ghost drop rate being this kind of like unfinishable aspect, like right. I feel like it was outside the bound, and I apologize for it. That's definitely on me. Like, I'm responsible for the event if that's.
Yeah, and I think what we're what we're looking at is how does this experience influence future projects moving forward, and when they're designing it and building it, what the community really wants to see. Ultimately, in these fun events, getting cool stuff is what makes it fun, and and it doesn't have to always be like super high end stuff. So when you're decrypting those engrams or you're getting those ghost shells and stuff, it matters. It matters to people that are playing. And but yeah, the Crimson Days playlist, I felt really ignited a part of me that really is thinking about what is possible in PvP to bring the community together and more engaged. And I kept thinking about other playlists like Gun Game and Capture the Flag, and things that were fun type events, faction type wars, and things that would engage the community in different ways, not just have some big overall themed event like the Valentine's Day where you put a lot of time and resources into decorating the tower, but let's say a faction war for a week, and something that maybe doesn't take as many resources but is more involves more of the community in access to more of the faction that you subscribes to's armor and guns during that time. I mean, they're just ideas like this that give us ways that we can connect with each other within PvP and make it fun and engaging. It doesn't always have to be a redesign of the play space.
Oh no, for sure. I'm with you there. Yeah, it's crazy. The possibility space. It's like one of the real pleasures of working on the IP with a highly engaged community is that those opportunities exist. We're really not, as designers, that bullied into like, here's like the things that you can make for Destiny. It's like, make this tiny, like, build the factory line. It's like not like that at all. Like, there's a wide spectrum between quirky and not quirky at all, or competitive or not competitive at all. Like, I'm with you, man. And like the lessons are being heard loud and clear.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Emmy, the head of the live team, and Steve Cotton on competitive, like some of the best conversations we've had recently are like, what are we observing, and like what does it say to the opportunities that are on the table? Like, I mean, there's no poverty of design that would make for like just really compelling experiences for the community. Like the bottleneck is what's right for the moment. You brought up CTF, like it's like, oh man, well if this is a mainline experience, like how do we build an event around it? What themes does this speak to? Like, do we roll CTF out with some other type of experience that had like where they dovetail together? Like,
at the same time, though, couldn't it be something that if you guys build something that is a mainstay during the live team events, wouldn't it be great though that it did return and added more content to the base game?
We can. It's just I'm thinking hypothetically, literally hypothetically. This isn't like a hint. My brain would be like, oh man, we should debut that in Iron Banner because that sounds like a good vehicle. And if we're gonna debut CTF in Iron Banner, we should think of like, what the gear set for that Iron Banner is going to be. If we're like, oh, but wait, what if we built an entire new CTF event? I'm like, well, what can we build around CTF that makes so much more sense than Iron Banner, that like it really justifies us making a thing out of it? Like, what does that experience look like? Are we building an event for event's sake? Are we making noise where it's justified? And like often we look at that as players. We're basically like, is this something that really feels like its own thing enough? Like elimination and trials were built with each other in mind and dovetailed in a really special way. And on top of that, we have to think about our ecosystem. Like when Iron Banner comes back, the fact that like if things aren't time limited over the course of the franchise, you can get a lot of like crazy bloat where it feels like, there's always something happen, but because of that, it's like over familiar and nothing, like it isn't special. Like that's one of the challenges with SRL. A lot of the conversations are like, what's the right cadence? Like, what's the right uptime? If people are playing this, what is that the expense of? How does that influence the investment game? Because if this is coming back aggressively, have players already learned that the experience is already associated with a certain degree of like rewards, and those rewards are gone? It's easier for Crimson doubles because hypothetically, if we just throw it in a rotator or whatever, it's back. It's fun for that week. But other experiences like the event, the rewards, and the gameplay itself are built so much with each other in mind that like splitting them up can get really complicated.
Sure, they're complete packages, and what you're saying is taking parts of them and putting them into the game makes for an incoherent experience from the design perspective. The problem though, like SRL, I think a lot of people felt 3 weeks was too long for SRL, but I'd say there's a very strong feeling in the community that SRL is going to return at some point. And even though that you guys have said nothing about it returning, like zero from Bungie.
This is a classic example. Like, I actually don't know. I haven't asked. I'm sure if I asked them, they'd be like, oh man, we haven't brought, like, we weren't in that meeting. You weren't on that email thread. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm guessing at some point, but like all those other questions are like super valid. I'd be shocked if they're like, we know exactly the right cadence for our community for that experience and the reward plan. I'm like certain that like there's at least one of those pieces. They're like, well, we need to figure out this other thing before we start thinking about that. Like,
either way, we as a community are ready for anything and everything. Like, yes, if there is something that you guys have been thinking about and you tell us, like, the community is ready to rip it apart and devour every piece because we love the game.
Yeah, this weekly update was huge. It was very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely it was.
I guess I'm being polite, but it's been fun to guess what's coming next, and it's really nice to have a roadmap of content. I'm not going to ask you what's coming ahead, but as far as the live team PvP Crimson Days experience, are you taking? I guess Tefty brought it up a little bit, but are we going to see it again? Are we going to see it or Sparrow Racing League again? Like, is that something that refreshes itself, or are you not able to comment on that?
Technically not able to comment. B, I really don't know. Like, I just assumed, like, what makes more sense. Like, I mean, maybe next year we do something totally different, but we name the event the same name and spirit, and it's like a totally different thing. Or we're like, oh man, people like that mode, we should just toss it in the rotators. Like, those conversations haven't happened, and like, for sure we're going to keep it as a surprise, because it would totally suck if we were like, oh man, here's the date, like expect it to come back this time. Like even if we had the date, that'd be way less cool. But yeah, in both cases, SRL and Crimson Days, like I've literally have no knowledge as to when or possibly if they come back and in what incarnation.
Yeah, kind of branching off this conversation a little bit. If and when any of these events return or new events surface, I just want to nod to what, correct me if I'm wrong, the very first event you guys ever did was those Queen's Wrath bounties things. Yeah, the Queen's Wrath. And one of the greatest things about that is that there was a capstone reward that said, hey, you completed it, good job, here is a sniper rifle called the Supremacy. And the thing about that capstone reward is that A, it wasn't game breaking, but B, I didn't get one, and I've always felt like I missed out.
Yeah.
So if you have that capstone reward that nods to that event, that anytime I see that gun, when I see MTash using that in his videos, I'm like, it grinds my gears. I'm like, why did I not do that? You know what I mean?
Jason Jones recently has been he's been speaking a lot on design off ramps and making players feel like there's a more formal completion when an experience comes into the end, and making sure that we like celebrate that properly, and on one hand not make players that didn't do that feel like it's game breaking. They're like, man, if I didn't have, like, now I've missed it forever. But on the other hand, like having a more formal exclamation point or period to the sentence, like definitely one of my regrets for Crimson Days is like trying to do that with like the final big bounty that pays out, like, you know, the emote bag and, you know, the Nightfall reward, but it didn't quite hit the thing that I was hoping for, that feels like, no, you did it. Like you're good. Like the Supremacy is a great example of you know, a capstone, like a really, like a true capstone that feels like you dunked the experience and you're ready to move on.
So I think that kind of concept that is hard for some players to understand is that the big picture has to be is looked at as to where a player accesses content and is able to get it and then come back to it at another time. It's when we're looking at it in the scope of like timed content and what players see and when. I think that what they showed us today in the roadmap, in a kind of an idea, and that's what we're going to start getting into next, is as the roadmap looks out and we're going to start making wild guesses of what that's going to look like. So, like, what is that roadmap? How does that apply to us? And where are we going to see other cool ideas and content like Crimson Days fitting into that? But you know, it's super exciting and inspiring to meet people who work for Bungie, who, you know, put their heart and soul into it, and you know, are there working every day on the game that we play. And we really truly appreciate the time and effort you put in every day to make the game great. And I know we all, you know, from speaking for the podcast guys, we really very much appreciate the work you do.
Absolutely.
Yep. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. And, you know, not just to throw one back, but it's like, you know, a lot of this stuff's possible because we have a great community. There's a lot of things that we wouldn't even consider because we'd be like, people have moved on. Like, that's not, people wouldn't be excited about that because they're not, like, you know, without an audience, it really doesn't matter what you do on the stage, right? It's one of the reasons I stay on the Reddit and I try to stay in touch, because it's just like, you know, it gives my days more substance when I know, you know, the faces and feelings of the people that, you know, the work I do has consequences on. And I was talking to Triple Rec last night. I was like, I'm much more fearful of indifference than salt. People are like, oh man, so much salt. And I'm like, salt means people care. Like, there's a handful of products in my entire life that I would consider going on a forum and expressing a strong opinion about. And like, it doesn't matter how bad Delta could screw up my like flying experience. I'm not going to go on and complain on Delta forums being like, you guys need to fix your airline.
Yeah, you got to fix your PvP experience.
I know, right?
It's awful
like,
up here.
I know, right? It just, I don't like, that's the thing. My phone doesn't work quite the way I want it to do. If my computer doesn't quite work the way I want to do. Like a lot of that stuff just rolls off my back. But when my game just doesn't perform the way I want to do, or it's like making it harder for me to hang out with my friends, like I get why that's super personal. And like, yeah, I go to work and I'm like, man, we need to find a way to do better. It doesn't matter how hard the problems are, the technical difficulty, resources, like, it just,
10 hours.
I just hope that shows off in Crimson. Like Crimson has its flaws, but like it's definitely like
10 hours in Crimson, no ghost.
that stuff kills me, man. Like
Crushing me.
Yeah, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. I think the Destiny community is definitely passionate. I think that there are reasons for that, and I can't speak for everybody, but personally, yeah, I can point at things in the PvP experience that I wish were different. But and I know that you're not individually responsible for the PvP experience, but you're a part of it. So to you and to all the guys there, the reason that I'm passionate about it is because, quite frankly, Destiny, the PvP just plays so good. Like the mechanics.
Absolutely.
There's no shooter out there, to me, that feels as rewarding because of the amount of freedom you have with things like character movement and even things like combining various armor pieces to create a new playstyle. The games don't give you that kind of freedom, not all games can do that, and you guys have accomplished something that's pretty incredible, so we want to see it perfected.
Thanks again, Leif. I know that you had to bounce out of here, but we really appreciate you jumping on the podcast.
Absolutely, man. I'm gonna hang out with my wife. I really liked having a chat with you guys. Maybe I'll come back soon. Maybe I'll drop another experience down the road, and we can have a chat about it. Like,
tell us when you're taking out damage over time in the Crucible. Oh, that'd be amazing, man. Really appreciate it.
So when are we going to be scheduling that podcast reappearance?
I make the stuff and we figure out what boat it ships on later.
Okay, I get it. All right, thanks again, Leif. Really appreciate it, man.
All right, later, guys.
Thank you.
Right,
Nice meeting you.
Thank you, man.
Be well.
It's awesome to talk to guys from Bungie and see how passionate they are about the project they're working on.
Absolutely.
It makes you feel hopeful for the future. Like no matter how salty you were going into a conversation with a Bungie guy, you always come out feeling hell yeah, like I'm on board.
Right?
You can flame me all you want, but the reality is that I'm not an apologist for Bungie. You know me. I'm demanding a great game just like you guys are, but I can also have an intellectual conversation with a man who's passionate about his job and not call him out for what you feel is like a personal assault on your livelihood. He is doing what he believes is the best thing for this game. We are informing him through an intellectual process of a conversation. Just relax. We're not going to sit here and berate a man who's on after hours on his work time at home time is hanging out with us and talking about a video game that he spends all day working on. If you want to be part of the solution, speak in a way that is clear, articulate, and doesn't cause people to turn off. So all the shit that you guys are talking in chat, it means nothing to me, because you're going to be, when you're talking to somebody who does it for a living, you can form an articulate conversation and you can have a good thing to say. Then I'm going to listen to you. So if I ignored your comment in chat or you got timed out, I'm talking to you. Anyway.
That's the fucking Pope hammer right there.
Pope hammer. That's the bear claw.
Really appreciate him coming on, and I hope we can get more Bungie guys in here.
My impression is that a lot of the salt that the Crimson Days event is getting was because of the lack of knowledge of future content, right?
That's
the lack
right.
of knowledge about PvE content. Just with the knowledge that we got today about future content coming in spring, coming in, later in the year, then Destiny 2 coming next year, I feel like that eases some of the pressure on the live team guys to be the sole carriers of the torch of new content for Destiny.
That's right.
And now, as a community, we could relax, look at the live content and be like, okay, this is just the stuff that we get in between the big stuff, and now we know the big stuff is coming too. Today was a big day for Bungie. It was a big day. 3 paragraphs worth of the weekly update.
It's really 3 sentences, truthfully. It's like 3 sentences of this update.
They made all the difference in the world. They
that
really
one
did.
paragraph made, I felt like a collective community, like...
Yeah,
definitely.
Do you agree?
Breath of fresh air.
It felt like an exhale,
totally.
finally.
Yeah.
Well, and also as content creators, it's a breath of fresh air too.
Yes.
Because I mean, if we're being truthful,
Absolutely.
part of that is livelihood, and so to know that there's fresh stuff on the horizon is a breath of fresh air for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But filling in the gaps with live team, that's what the live team I think should be doing, not carrying the game on their shoulders.
Yeah, exactly. The main thing that the takeaway from that sentence is just feeling that the game that we love to play and that we love to experience, that we want more of, is getting more of what it has right now, with just more, the weapon refresh and so on and so forth. Like, we get to experience more nooks and crannies of this game that we put thousands of hours into, and that is enough of a fresh air feeling to be excited over it. Obviously we want Destiny 2 and the new, whatever that is, new everything, but just to be able to play this game and still have more stuff to do in it is exciting from a player perspective. So
Destiny 2 getting delayed, to me, it wasn't so concerning that it was getting delayed. It was the fact that the lack of content for that long a time. That's what was really concerning to me. So now to see that gap get filled in is really it's a sigh of relief as far as I'm concerned.
It also means that we'll probably see something at E3 this year too.
Can we try to put dates to this stuff? I know that's really hard, but let's let's take a look at it. And it says, prior to the holiday break, we mentioned a second larger update slated for spring. What does that mean? We're not farmers. We're not farmers here. What is the what does that mean to us?
April.
I'm with Tefty. I think April is
okay.
April.
All right. Are we all agree? True.
Yeah, I was gonna say late April.
It's gonna be the bunny surprise. Easter bunny surprise.
And then I would guess September for the next one.
Yeah, that's my thought too.
Okay, so September. Okay, now let's say the April content release. What is it going to have in it?
So something that was very interesting. They said a significant light level increase.
Right.
Raid.
So not just 330. I think it's going to be maybe 360, 370 or something like that. I don't know. They said significant, and
I'm
10 points.
363.
363?
Yeah.
Nice.
So
369.
No, it's going to be 343.
Yeah, it's going to be 343.
Oh, nice.
Nailed it.
No.
343. But honestly, 10 point difference is nothing. We've all seen it. There's literally no difference.
Especially
the other thing
since
that
people have been
implies,
working
though,
on a 5-point difference for months now. People hit
Right.
315 and can't get to 320.
Yeah, and you don't really experience much of a difference with it either way. The other thing that's interesting that implies is that, there's going to be a way to reach it, and whether or not that means King's Fall gets a refresh or previous raids gets a refresh, which I'm very excited to see.
I would love an updated Vault of Glass, dude. I don't like PvE, but I could play Vault of Glass any day.
Yeah, it would be awesome. I would love to see drops happening, even if it was the same armor or weapons with the new light level. That'd be great. Obviously, primaries with elementals would
Give
be
it
a problem.
color refresh like they did with Trials of Osiris.
That'd be great. Love it.
I want some Trials of Osiris sidearm sword.
Yeah, I want to access the Iron Banner sidearm or something. I've been really wanting that. So then what are we looking at September? What's that release? I think the big question people have is it going to include a raid?
I think that's the question that we're seeing for the spring one as well. A second larger update. If there's a significant light increase, I don't want to be playing King's Fall to be getting that significant light increase. I want it to be at new in-game content.
They did a light increase with Prison Elders, though.
They did, but there was a new activity.
There was, yeah.
I mean,
I think September is going to be a raid. I think it'll be a Taken King style event. Yeah, I mean the way they word it, the team is focused on delivering a large expansion later this year. Large expansion to me has the feel of King's Fall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Expansion has the feel of
Taken King,
House of Wolves, or Dark Below. Large expansion means Taken King.
Okay.
So I would like to think that, and I would be thrilled if there really was a raid. And I like Little Teft, that's a kid, is oh my god, that's amazing! I want to do that's gonna be amazing. But adult theft right now is like they got 700 people, most of them focusing on Destiny 2. Is that even realistic to expect that they're going to pump out?
I think they got multiple teams working on raids at the same time, and I think they had raid planned for this year.
Here's my thought. Like that raid that may or may not have been planned for this year or Destiny 2, if that gets taken out and put into a content drop, then they're missing a raid for that future release. You know what I mean? They have to rebuild that content.
I think they gave us a good idea of like the direction we're going, and we're going to be able to, salivate over details as they come out. When do you think that they're going to start like giving us like, maybe artwork from whatever content we're going to be getting
for the spring?
Mm-hmm.
March
next month.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh God, that's.
I hope.
Forgot what month it was.
They continue along the trajectory that they did with the previous DLCs, where it wasn't just they released artwork, but they had the community involved pretty heavily with events, the Twitch live streams.
Yep.
And that to me fueled my hype at exponential levels. So
Yeah.
I feel like they gave away too much with the Taken King too early, though. We knew so much about that at the beginning of summer at E3, and then that excitement had to kind of sustain itself all the way through summer.
I didn't feel that way. I maintained that excitement, but I had a busy.
I was pretty hyped. I was pretty hyped throughout the summer. Like I was dreaming about getting an Omelon scout rifle with the liquid and all that.
Oh yeah.
Or the snipers.
Oh, yeah.
Like I was.
I hear
so
the Hung Jury has
that.
a really good roll on it. If you haven't gotten that already,
This week,
you probably have like another 3 months to go.
You got to
get
get to the tower. It's going to refresh soon.
It's gonna get refreshed, baby. Yeah, I was excited about it prior. I mean, but I don't know. Different strokes, right?
Speaking of refresh, I should probably go buy my weapon packages. Just thanks for that.
Hold up. Before you do that, there's one more speculation. When do you think Destiny 2 or the sequel drops?
Dun, dun,
First
dun.
quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter? Because this is what this sets up is a chance for them to move it off of September. And I think, honestly, the September release dates was eventually going to be a problem for them because of it being Activision with
Right.
Call of Duty in November,
So you're saying you think we'll see Destiny 2 in September of 2017? Or
No, I'm asking when do you think? And I don't think it's going to be September.
I don't think it will be either.
I think quarter 3 and 4 are bad months for Activision to drop another
It's bad months
AAA title like Destiny.
It's bad months in general. Look what happened this past year, like in November. Or was it November? I think it was November, where it was just like so many games came out, and there were so many games that were just buried under all the stuff.
Yeah.
Destiny sold really well though. In September.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, no, it did. It was right at the
Destiny
beginning
is,
of that because it was right at the beginning.
It was.
Of that.
It beat the rush.
Yeah.
Like November was the tough month. I felt like huge games came out and were really good games and just got completely covered. I would like to see it on January 1st.
I would like New Year's Day, please, Bungie.
At
New Year's Day.
1 o'clock in the morning.
Pacific time, please.
It's gonna be great. I don't think they're gonna do the November drops. I think they're gonna go off of that. I think we're probably gonna see it earlier, like mid-year. So between the second and third quarter.
Summer.
They're not going
So
to
you're
release
thinking like
during the
May.
summertime, right? No way.
No.
So it's either going to be spring or fall.
Spring.
I'm hoping spring.
Yeah, I foresee a spring.
February is a little too close to Christmas. People have emptied their pocketbooks and just now, and then tax return time in March. I think March, April would be a fantastic yearly refresh time for Destiny.
I should probably do taxes too, after I go buy these weapons.
You're welcome.
I need to go buy these weapons first, but yeah, I'll get on that.
Right. Well, they also talked about, and this is the part that we're bringing True Vanguard on this. In the weekly update, they talked about from Lars, the matchmakers, and sort of the changes that they made to Crucible.
Well, I think I played about 5 hours of it. It felt really good. I still think something was weird with like when they fixed the connections or something. It felt like people that were green bar had lag associated with them, like what would normally be a yellow bar is a green bar. That's the way that it definitely felt. But if I saw a player, I'm like, oh, this guy is usually kind of laggy. He would be laggy, but my shots would absolutely register like the instant that they hit him, and I would see his health move.
Amazing.
It was like,
no way.
That
worked.
sounds like a dream.
It worked. But then in extreme cases, when there was someone who was like on the low end of yellow / red bar, it was back to the old style of it taking, a long time for stuff to register on them. But the stuff where there's usually like a little bit of lag, where you'd be like, oh man, that sucks, that wasn't there anymore. So Damage Referee was working for what would be like a good matchmaking. If someone was like, I'm just gonna throw numbers out here, if someone was within like the ideal matchmaking range, like I'm gonna say, like, I guess above or below 200 ms, like everything felt solid. If they were above like 300 to 400, then it got back to old hat.
That's really interesting. I had thought Damage Referee would fix the extreme cases and not the opposite.
No, there were many cases where like I would snipe someone in the head, and I'm like, wait, what? I landed that snipe, and then I would see bloop come up a little bit later, or I would kill someone, they would die, and then the damage, and then like the little thing would pop up on the screen and said you killed them. A lot of throwing knife, like peck at you with my sidearm and then throwing knife on. I'm like, okay, they're dead. Wait, did they die? And then they'd keel over. It's like, oh, okay. But again, that was only against players that had very extreme cases. So take that as you will.
Did they include that Control is available inside the freelance? Is it called freelance?
It's freelance,
playlist?
66 freelance.
Yeah, so Control is one of the playable game.
I don't know.
I
just selected Control from the normal playlist. I have not tried out freelance.
I played freelance, so I'll be able to speak a little bit about that. I played for about an hour, and what I found is that I had a really good experience just going freelance. I don't think that objective game modes were that great in there. It just felt like I'm used to running with the team, so it was difficult to play an objective game mode. But when it rotated,
it's frustrating. Right?
It's frustrating.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if that's what you got, if that's the best you got, I honestly would have liked to have seen Crimson Days with matchmaking. I understand the philosophy behind it not being, but I wish it would have had matchmaking in it, because I like the idea of being able to jump in there with, and I bring up Crimson Days because it's essentially you could do a no teams version of that in doubles, right? Doubles freelance.
Yep.
And the reason why I like it is because you meet people there, man. Like some guy, supports you and, puts up a bubble, and all of a sudden you find yourself, it's like running the Vanguard strikes. You meet somebody that is a good teammate, and all of a sudden you're exchanging, PSN, names and putting them on your friends list, and next thing you know, you're playing a raid together.
It would have been a perfect opportunity with just the two of you. I bet a lot of friends would have gotten made that way.
Yeah, and that
I agree with
that
you,
was
Pope.
that was the concept behind like a Valentine's Day. You fall in love with somebody. I mean,
bromance
or girlmance.
Or girlmance, yeah. Girl Crush Wednesday.
Yeah. And so I really think they missed an opportunity to not have matchmaking in something like Crimson Days. But I did see the value of having it in the free-for-all, because the freelance, because you see everybody in there is by themselves. So if you run into somebody that's good or that has a similar play style, you send them a message and say, hey, let's hook up. Let's go do something, and it's a good way of meeting people.
To me, it feels like kind of a, when I just want to play a little bit of Crucible just because it's nice to go in there and know I'm not going to be set up against a team of 6, That's not fun. When you just want to go play a little Control for fun, to just get crushed by a team of 6, it's just not fun.
I generally don't play 6s, but true story, the last time I queued up in Control to play 6v6 solo, I got paired up against a full team of Bomb Squad kids. And I was like, you gotta be...
Oh, man, that's fun.
So I know that I'm going to get some mileage, especially once they get some freelance 3v3. I'll get some mileage out of that. I do play a lot of solo. I do have a number of chunks of time that I do invest in the game, are times where I'm with my kid, or I'm multitasking, and so I intentionally don't want to be in a fire team with other people because I know I'll be a detriment.
Yeah.
Because my attention is divided. So I know that I'll get a lot of mileage out of freelance 3v3, and I will be able to play it in a more relaxed sort of a way. I'll get to try out some new loadouts because I know I'm not going up against a team of Bomb Squad kittens. So
Yeah, I think it's a great addition to the game. It's something that I think they needed along for a while.
I'm gonna have to try it out because I haven't tried freelance yet, or the new damage referee.
Yeah.
You guys want to do some Twitter questions?
Yeah.
All right. Paul Pasagno at Pasagno Paul. That's weird. He flipped it. Is anyone in the cast joining at True Vanguard for Fusion Friday on Trials?
Fusion Friday. I've been pushing for
What
it.
is it?
Yeah, pitch it.
So I was just looking at
Sell
the
it to me.
stats.
Why are we gonna want to do this?
Yeah.
Here's
we can
the
join
thing,
the cause.
If you've looked at the recent stats for the Trials of Osiris, you will see that I think it was 1% of the player base is using a fusion rifle. Getting kills with a fusion rifle. That's
Huge
should make that
difference.
distinction. So, a lot of people have been reminiscing on the good old year one meta days back when fusion rifles were fantastic, and they are unloved. So I think it'd be fun to really jack up their charts and their spreadsheets over there at Bungie when they're reviewing their data for this weekend in Trials, and they see this giant spike in fusion rifle use. But I just think it would be a fun thing to go up against a full team of guys using their regular primaries, but having things like Telesto and Plan C and the Susanoo and
Plan C
Yeah,
rips.
yeah.
It's an
Vacancy.
underrated weapon.
I would love honestly, if I got killed by a Plan C, I would just good on you.
You
Good
got to
on
go
you.
Vex and the Fusion.
Well, hey, we used
Double
Vex Mythic
fusions.
class
Let's go.
in Trials a couple of weeks ago. We did that.
How did that work out for you?
It didn't.
Okay.
It didn't.
The Plan C rips, though. I mean, the key to that gun is that when you swap to it, it fires almost immediately.
If you don't remember.
So, like, you could really shock, like, those shotgunners that are just charging at you, and you got, like, a slow-firing scout rifle. You're fucked, and then you just switch to that Plan C and blow them out of the sky. That really surprises people. It's a fun gun to use.
It's awesome.
Who's competing in it? Who's going to do it? Who's going to take up the True Vanguard Fusion Friday challenge?
Fusion Friday.
I will try to learn how to use a fusion rifle. I'm going to tell you right now that I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with one.
Well, nobody can. The things spray all over the place.
All right, I'm gonna take on the challenge, Vanguard.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try it.
I love you.
I'll pass.
Patrick.
I'll pass.
Oh,
He
nothing. No
politely
love.
declines.
Yeah.
If I play Trials on Friday, I will. I'll take up the challenge. I don't know if I'm going to play on Friday.
I'm not playing on Friday, but I'll take it up on Saturday. How about that?
All right. For me, I know that whenever I play on Fridays, it's with the same people, and it's not when I'm doing carries for people, so I don't feel guilty about derping around. I'm playing with KJ Hovey and the Manigator, and these guys love to play derpy, so I know we'll have a good time. We'll pull out our
Nice.
fusion rifles.
For sure.
We may get pooped on, but we'll have a good time doing it.
All right, Gavin Risbridger at Gavris. Are gaming accessories worth buying, i.e. scuff, elite pads, gaming glasses, etc.? And will DestinyNews.net
Gaming
ever
glasses.
review them? I think he's talking about PlanetDestiny. Will PlanetDestiny ever review them?
Um,
What do you guys think about gaming accessories? Scuff, elite pads, gaming glasses, all that stuff.
gaming monitors. Not necessarily gaming monitors, but playing on a monitor does have a very noticeable. That if you ever want to buy one thing that'll probably make you a better player, assuming you're competent at things, a gaming monitor is probably going to be the best bet because
I will caveat that statement by saying it's not what the brand of the monitor is. It's about the lag, the input lag on the display.
And also
it doesn't matter
response
if
time.
it's branded as a gaming monitor or if it's branded as a Dell desktop monitor. The stat you want to know is the delay on the screen,
The response
time it
time.
takes, the response. Well, there's the response time of the LCDs, but there's also a processing delay from the HDMI going into the monitor and the actual image being displayed on the screen. It's not response time. Response time is a measure of the pixel's response time.
Okay, so
But there's also a processing time before that.
okay,
So
Okay.
you want the total time.
okay, so
Yep.
but gaming monitor, in quotation marks, yes. Scuff controllers, elite controllers, using those to improve your game, it's not going to help everyone. It absolutely
They
cannot.
make it significantly easy to do certain things.
Yes.
I think
Like jumping and shooting at the same time.
I can tell you that I can definitely attest to two things: Control Freaks and a Scuff gaming controller or a Elite controller. When they work properly, because I've been having some issues with mine, and I think it's a programming issue where there's ghost movements. But these help out a lot, and it's simply put because your thumbs never come off of the movement, your torso and your body movement and upper body movement. So when you press the jump button in the air, you're in the air and still turning and aiming at the target. There is a lot of movement in first-person shooters that is extremely important to staying alive and putting your shots on target. And one of the reasons why people in chat ask me, Pope, how are you so good with the doctrine of passing? And that archetype of gun is about tracking your opponent and putting lots of shots on them, right? Instead of just a few accurate shots. So this controller helps me to track an opponent and use that because I can move around and never take my aim off.
Yeah. Being able to shoot and res at the same time, that's valuable in trials.
It's great. Being able to put up say you're playing salvage and you go up to a salvage point, you can throw up the shield of the sword and start defusing the salvage point. So they're shooting rockets at you, and you're blocking the rockets with your sword shield and dismantling the salvage point. Or there's a lot of things that you can do with the Scuff controller or a Elite controller.
On that note, if you're cheap, you can learn how. I have an unpopular. I think Holtz already knows this. I have an unpopular opinion of Scuff controllers and things of the sort. But if you don't want to use one or you can't afford to use one, you can always claw, and that will allow you to do exactly those same things if you learn how to claw properly.
Wrist health.
I used to claw a lot. I used to claw a lot, Vanguard, in Xbox, and I'm an old man, and I got Nintendo wrist, right? Nintendo thumb from clawing, and I would use the top two buttons across the top. You've seen Scump play, right, from Optic, how he plays claw, and I tried to mimic that, so the top two went across, and I got really bad carpal tunnel through my index finger going through my wrist.
I used to do it playing Call of Duty. My shit's fine.
Yeah, it looks great, right? I
think you're just unhealthy.
Right.
Could be.
Right.
You need some wrist exercises.
Yeah, I need to. What was that?
moving off the controller thing. Things like gaming
glasses.
Gaming
I've heard
glasses.
they help a lot with eye strain if you suffer from eye strain.
I have 2 or 3 friends that get eye strain really bad from looking at monitors, and after they started using gaming glasses, they could play for longer periods of time without getting eye strain. So
put a light source behind your monitor. That also helps tremendously. If you're looking at a bright object surrounded by a dark background, that can create a lot of eye strain. If you just put maybe those little Japanese lights, you can buy them at like Home Depot for like $5. You throw one of those behind your gaming monitor, it'll help tremendously with eye strain.
Yep. Yeah. Also, the monitor itself can contribute to eye strain. If there's a type of I think it's type of light or panel that they use, you can actually get monitors that are better for your eyes. And
LED,
something to do with the refresh rates.
LED monitors.
If you want a good monitor, IPS displays will not have that eye searing technology that so many others have.
But typically have more input lag.
Yeah, but they typically have more input lag. You once again pay out the ass and you can get a good one. So yeah, some gaming accessories worth it. Some not really. Some definitely no. If you're getting deodorant so your hands don't sweat, like deodorant so your hands don't sweat, you got pants on, just wipe your hands off on your pants. You're good.
Remember they used to sell controllers with fans in them?
Yes, those old Mad Cat ones. Oh god, those were horrible. Those were horrible.
I'll say I have not used the Elite controller or gotten a scuff yet. I want to. So I've just been using basic control. I used to use Control Freaks on the controls as well to make it easier switching from Xbox to PS4 and back and forth.
I use
But now recently I've just gone basic.
I use Control Freaks on mine, and honestly, the only reason is because I feel like protecting my investment of a scuff and not tearing up my thumbsticks on the controllers.
Yeah, that's the other thing about scuffs. You pay $200 for a PlayStation controller that's going to wear out just as fast as a PlayStation controller does.
Yikes.
And when you throw them across the room, they wear out faster.
Oh, they break?
Yeah,
Oh,
no, they
that
just seem to wear out faster. I'm not really sure. Like when you're playing Crimson doubles and you keep getting killed, right? And there's a wall all the way across my room, and my controller reaches it.
What you're saying is send the bill to Bungie for skill-based matchmaking.
That's right.
So
They
fun
should
fact.
they should have insurance for it.
And if they had 60 FPS, my eyes wouldn't get strained. I wouldn't need these stupid glasses.
Let's sue them. Class action lawsuit, gentlemen.
Yeah.
We're on you. We're on to you now.
Fun fact, I had
Gavin
never
Risbridger.
thrown a controller in my life until last
I
week
haven't either.
during trials.
That's not a big deal.
Until
Oh, okay.
last week during trials. And it wasn't so much as a throw as much of it was a fuck it, I'm dropping everything and walking out of the room. I unloaded into a guy with my sidearm, hit every single shot. His health still isn't down. Okay, I need to melee him. Oh god, he got a quick res off. Oh god, the melee didn't register. I'm done. And I just walked away. I hadn't even died at that point, and I just walked away. Refilled my coffee, came back, and I was good.
I feel like every weekend that happens to me on trial. It's unhealthy.
It's unhealthy.
Austin Taurus at AMT210. What do you expect for the spring release? I personally think old raid revamp.
I hope it's not an old raid revamp.
I hope not too.
No.
I really don't want to see this. I know this is a popular
I don't want
idea.
it to be
I don't
just
want
that, but I wouldn't mind if it was some awesome stuff and that, you know?
Okay, I'll go with you along on that. But I don't
Yeah.
want either
I'm going to
or.
call new boss loot tables. I think one of the things they saw is that people are loving some of these items that certain bosses are dropping. You see all the rage for the
Grasp of Malak.
Grasp of Malak, you know? And I think they're going to be like, hey, it's, if we're speaking honestly, it's perpetuating gameplay. People are still playing because they're trying to get these things. You saw that for the cloak farms, that people wanted the cloaks for the Scion flares. I think you're going to see new loot tables for bosses for
That was a
special
good
items.
addition to the Taken King. It really was.
Oh, I agree.
That would be
They
awesome.
increased the damn drop rate so I can actually farm one effectively. Still only have one. I finally got one cloak. Whatever.
Matt Ellis at Matt V. Ellis. What form of content would you like to see in the future outside of a raid? I think True Vanguard just answered that question for us. What kind of new stuff would you like to see? Something that they're not doing now you'd like to see added to future content?
Don't we talk about this like every fucking week on the podcast?
Yes, and we're gonna talk about it again.
Okay. Dark Zone and Destiny. Patrol.
Thank
Let's
you.
do it again.
Okay.
That's what we want.
Yes, I agree.
That's it.
Times Vengeance at the MQ9 Reaper. I think this guy gets a question in every week. How do you think Trials of Osiris will play with the current special ammo changes? So we kind of got a sneak peek at this with Crimson Doubles, right?
Yeah, we did.
What do you guys think is going to happen? You think
Almost.
we're going to see as much cheating it with the sidearms and
Yes.
Icebreaker?
Yes.
It's going to be very prevalent.
Very.
If you get matched up in that category, in the higher tier, it's going to be like 90% of the matches you're going to see that.
It's. I'm not.
Do you guys like the change, or would you rather have it go back for Trials of Osiris only?
I want to play it before I make that call, but just
That's
seeing it in the Crimson Doubles, I liked what it did for the gameplay, or I liked the good things that it did, but I think the bad things that it does for the gameplay is just either really frustrating or just completely detrimental. Like the whole snowballing thing of, well, I would have loved to be able to use some special ammo to kill this guy that has heavy this round, but I can't. Or just a snowballing effect of, well, they killed us while we were trying to get special, or stuff like that. Just it kind of snowballs, and I think it can be frustrating for a lot of people too.
I would honestly love to see some numbers, some figures of what they're looking at Bungie. I would love to see the correlation between winning round one and winning. The
That's gonna
entire
be really
match.
in.
I'd love to see, those numbers.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. Leaf talking about there's no real rubber banding type of measures that they can put in Destiny. I thought that was a really interesting thing to think about in this game and how they could actually do that. And it is a very difficult spot for them as designers to actually put that in. Like if a team is going just running away with a match, should the other opposite team have some sort of measures put in to help give them a hand to prevent?
Honestly, I think that's why the revives are so strong right now.
Yeah, the
Which I
revives
honestly
are
don't
the
care
rubber
for.
band mechanic.
Yeah, it seems like the running through revive and then being able to do your that buff, and it's a little bit too difficult for me to see that being competitive. Even and I know Leif was saying that he wasn't going for competitive, but that's what ended up happening. And I think that
it's an inevitability.
Well, I mean, one of the questions in chat was, is there a reason why sidearms spawn with ammo? Do you think that's an oversight, or did they want sidearms to spawn with ammo? I mean, I think that. Do you think that was just an oversight?
That was intentional. I mean, in the reveal stream when we saw the sidearm for the first time, they inspected it. They were like, "Yeah, this perk. It always spawns with ammo. It's always ready for you."
I think it was an oversight in them thinking of like right now what they're doing to special ammo, and thinking in the future with competitive how much impact that could have.
I think they knew it was there.
Oversight.
I don't think it was an oversight, but I just think that they were like, okay, this is going to be there. People will probably exploit it. For now,
it seems like that they put it out to the wild, knowing that there was an exploit,
multiple exploits
that would cause or give people no other option but to be competitive, no other option but to utilize that exploit. And I kind of hate being put in that corner,
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, though, like the game is evolving and growing as we go. We find these exploits, Bungie fixes them, and we move on.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a long time. It takes less time than it used to, though. I mean, we get updates a lot faster than we used to.
Very true. Yeah.
I'd be happy if they made it so that anytime you switch special weapon types, even if you're dead, if you go from a sidearm to a sniper, you lose all your ammo. If you go from a sniper to a shotgun, you lose all your ammo. I think that would fix it. It obviously wouldn't fix using an icebreaker and then switching to a different sniper. But honestly, I'm a little bit more okay with the icebreaker thing because it's causing a lot of players to sacrifice their exotic primary.
Yeah.
So there is a give-take there.
And in trials, they're going to also have to sacrifice some light.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're absolutely right. I've been thinking about that too. Like if they made it so even if you're dead, if you switch types, I think that would fix quite a bit. Quite a bit of the problems.
Yep.
And that way, it doesn't affect sidearms having that perk. You still get ammo with a sidearm.
Exactly.
Just flip that switch, Bungie.
Yep, just turn that on. That doesn't sound like a coding thing to me.
Come on.
Charlie Fisher at CM Fisher. I know it's less than a month away, but do you think the larger update mentioned in Bungie Weekly Update could be coming on 3/8? March 8th.
March? No.
No.
Nope.
All right, there's your answer.
Nah.
X Motion ZZ at J Hansen 27. A gear step is good but replayable. What do you mean, Bungie? So I think he's asking what that replayable means in the Bungie Weekly Update or this week in Bungie. I just found it interesting because we heard that same word so oftenly used to describe Prison of Elders.
And I think that with Prison of Elders, it was the replayability was mostly, it wasn't necessarily in the diversity of the experience itself. It was largely the same no matter what room you went into. Mm-hmm. The diversity came from the loot that you were awarded at the end. And that's what kept people coming back. Everyone wanted a perfect roll, her benevolence or whatever, and you got to get your keys. So I think that it's going to be loot based, personally. That's why I said the loot table with the bosses is
I think it might be more in line because, I mean, I think the only part of Prison of Elders that was actually replayable in the sense that they were marketing it as was the level 28 version where it was never the same thing going in. The loot experience, I mean, was always the same thing. You go down this large hole, big treasure room, open up the loot. Okay, cool, got a thing I can maybe re-roll up. Doesn't matter. Yeah, I think we might see something in the same vein as Prison of Elders, where there's going to be, content that may not be the same doing an encounter every single time.
Like a horde mode.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I would love to see that in Destiny.
I think
Horde mode would be
I
amazing.
think we see that as a PoE expansion.
Mm-hmm. Could be.
That'd be great. Just like with Reach, the firefights, those were really fun.
Those were fun.
Yeah, they were fun.
So, yeah. It could, I mean, you could set up the modifiers so you can go like crazy difficult or just having fun with rockets or something like that. But if they had something like that and it had rewards dropped for whatever tiers you reached in terms of how long you were going, what higher rounds,
Oh, if it worked like Trials of Osiris, where the longer you went, the better the rewards got.
wouldn't it be amazing?
Oh, that
Like
would be
so
Destiny
awesome.
zombies
Sweet.
fighting against the hive hordes.
Now we're talking. Now we got replayability.
Yeah, now.
Please, Bungo, please.
So if you're in there for like 6 hours, you get an exotic.
You guaranteed
I ain't got that kind
2
of time.
blues.
I'm a dad.
You're
I can't be
guaranteed two
Right, I'm with True
blues.
Vanguard on this one. I'm a dad. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I'm kidding about the time, but like that's what I'm gonna be. That's what I'm saying. Like, at what point do they recognize it's enough time to get that high end loot drop?
Bren at Brennan N5830. Legendary hand cannons. What do you guys think of their place in the meta?
A is Luna and Byron Akira are the only two that are actually worth a damn. Good luck
I
getting a
finally
good
got
roll.
that AS Luna. It is good.
Yeah, I found one in my vault that I had been saving for quite a while, and I finally got frustrated enough that I equipped it. And
What was your frustration, Patrick?
maybe the fact that it never drops, or just stuff like that, and the fact that there genuinely there are only 2 good hand cannons, and it's Byronic Hero and A is Luna. Outside of the main weakness of hand cannons right now is that ammo. Ammo is so damn low on legendary hand cannons. I agree that the Ufarin or the Kumuktok, whichever one is the Fatebringer archetype, is a great hand cannon. I have a God Roll one. It only has 7 rounds. That's not enough for PvP or PvE in my eyes. And so Byrionic Hero is like I think 9 is like the bare minimum that you really need to be successful on a legendary type hand cannon. And those two
I would say one of the biggest issues is also the accuracy.
Yep, that's the other thing.
Because I used to love using my Vanity. I mean, my very first We Ran Out of Medals after they introduced the medal was using the Vanity hand cannon. I got a God Roll on it. But now it just doesn't hit crap. I fire 7 rounds, the mag's empty, and I hit maybe one of them. It's just frustrating.
No, the it's like accuracy and magazine size are just why.
It feels different than any other. Trinity Guard's got a point. It feels different than any other weapon right now. It feels like if you put those crosshairs right on a guy and you pull that trigger, sometimes it just doesn't hit.
Yeah.
That's
happens
weird.
a lot with the last word.
Unless you're using the last word, yeah. That's true.
No. It happens a lot with me on the last
okay.
word. Yeah, like it's RNG shots.
Yeah.
I don't like rolling the dice when I'm trying to kill somebody.
And my Aes Luna has extended mag too, so it's got 11 shots. And it's like it has like some of the best stats that you could have, and it's just inconsistent. Hand cannons in general are just too inconsistent to even consider right now in PvP. So another frustrating aspect of trying to pick a good legendary primary weapon is that the pool for that is about as small as the pool for decent exotics to use, too. You got Mida Last Word for year 2 weapons. You get for year 2 exotics. You got Red Death, Suros is Bad Juju's kind of viable. And Doctrine of Passing is pretty decent.
It's more than just decent.
I like
Don't talk.
that vote.
Don't talk about my baby like that. Don't put her. Don't put baby in a
He was
box.
ready to
Don't
throw
put her
down.
in a corner.
Yeah, she's pretty good, but she
she's
needs
really
friends,
good.
is what I'm trying to say.
She doesn't.
She's all
need
cooped
friends.
up in her own house.
She does need
She
friends.
needs friends, other
Okay,
friends.
she can hang out with the necrochasm. She likes it. She likes necrochasm. She likes it.
It's just right. One of the real. We're getting really off topic here, but one of the. I'm getting really off topic, but I feel like I wanted to make a point at some point during this podcast. Fuck it, I'll make it right now. When I was using Icebreaker during this Crimson Doubles event, That was the main thing that I was trying to do. If you go and watch my stream of it, like I was trading out legendary primaries, just trying to find something that I enjoyed on the same level that like I enjoy Mida or some of these other weapons, and it's just not there. No,
Really? You can't find any legendaries you enjoy?
genuinely no. Genuinely, I
Really?
cannot find one that I'm like, I enjoy using this. The same way that I loved my Devil You Know, the same way I loved, like, you know, that gun or some of the other ones from year one. It doesn't exist for me right now, and I don't know. it's
That's because enjoying it means that it also has to be at least somewhat effective. There are a ton of legendary primaries out there that have an appeal and allure to them and character to them that makes me want to use them, but I don't like them because they're not effective.
Red Spectre.
So what makes it effective? Just time to kill?
It's a majority of factors. Like, a lot of the weapons out there have a fantastic time to kill. You know, Grasp of Mallet, basically every legendary out there has a really decent time to kill. It comes down to using the weapon, the way it feels, the actual handling speeds, the reload. A lot of them just feel a hell of a lot lower.
If you get used to Mida Multi-Tool, everything feels slow.
No, this is true. But then when, like, I use some of my year one of my only year one weapons that I would have left, and I'm like, this feels right. This feels right.
Yeah, I feel that same way about my zombie apocalypse. I don't know about you guys.
I'm going to murder you one day.
I love the zombie.
Yeah,
Going on
it's
record
just
for making me
absolutely
delete that.
I still have a swarm, yeah.
Love it.
I got a crazy roll on Treads Upon Stars, and Vision of Confluence was one of my favorite year one weapons. So I've been getting down and dirty with that.
Yeah.
I've been loving that.
Oh,
gun.
Patrick
life
has
support
one
on
that I just salivate over every time I see it.
The point is, there are some weapons out there that are so close to being good. I think A is Luna, like Grasp of Malik, like the PDX 47, or not the PDX, the Suros Scout Rifle, the 47, the fast rate of fire one feels pretty good.
DIS.
The DIS 47.
Is this a problem, or is
47,
this
yeah.
working as intended? Right? Because you're trying to make a decision. All right, I usually use exotic primary. You're pulling off that because you wanted to use an exotic secondary, and now you can't find a primary that feels exotic. That
Not necessarily feels
feels like it's
exotic.
working as intended.
I don't want a legendary that's an exotic. I mean, that defeats the purpose of legendary. I'm saying I can't find something that feels right that's a legendary. And the only weapon that does feel anywhere close to right for me is something that was, you know, good in year one, or that was and look at Mida in year one. There were a ton of other legendary, you know, there were some legendary primaries out there, a lot of exotic primaries that, you know, you could trade in and out. You used Mida in year one because of the speed and the speed boosting capabilities of it, just the all around really good multi-toolness of the weapon. And now it's just
That's still why you use it, isn't it?
Huh?
Isn't that still why you use it?
I still use it because it's the only damn thing that it's actually feels right for me, and it just happens to be an exotic. Yeah, the legendary primaries as a whole, personally for me, just aren't where legendaries should be. Not where exotics should be judging them, or not where weapons should be looking at exotics, but as legendaries should be, you know, in the game. It feels like they're down lower. There's a tier that they haven't reached yet, and they could go up to that, and then exotics could still maintain their exotic status. Yeah,
I'm really enjoying waiting every week for the weaponsmith to come with the packages and to analyze which ones are good and bad. I wish that we had that same level of flexibility within the faction guns, and so that we could go there and run around to our faction, and let's say we committed to a faction for the week, right? That we would get a discount on those guns that are rolled in there, but you could still buy the guns from the other factions. It would just be more expensive. I think that there's ways of making those vendors more engaging, because right now, I mean, why do we go there unless we're just...
You don't really go after like the first couple of weeks of a DLC. You never really look at them again.
Right.
Yeah, not really.
I don't know.
Well,
I keep going back to the New Monarchy one because I want to get a good roll on that sidearm, and I want a better antinomy.
have you seen the possible rolls on the antinomy? There's not a hell of a lot that you can get that's good.
I just like the gun in general. It feels really good. I use it a lot I really do.
I
The vendor
actually-
version is pretty good. But
You like those wimpy.
I've had a few of 'em.
You like those wimpy sniper rifles, though.
They're good.
dude, screw the meta, man.
Can I go on another
I
rant
actually
on the
got
use of the
the
word
sidearm.
meta? But
I got the sidearm. I don't remember the rules on it, but I want to use it and leveled up because I kind of want to like switch up. If I'm going to start using sidearms more often, because I'm in the Crucible and I try hard from time to time, I'm inevitably going to pull out that sidearm, and I kind of want to get away from the Havoc Pigeon a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
Havoc
just to
Pigeon
try things up.
for me. Havoc Pigeon is the only sidearm that really feels right. Just because it's the higher damage model, and then all the stats on the other ones are basically the same. They have like the same. You can get them to the same range cutoff. So that means that this one will be doing a little bit more range or a little bit more damage at a slightly further range. So that's why I enjoy Havoc Pigeon. But for a close-up one, if you're using sidearms as close-up to battle shotgunners and stuff, the other archetype is entirely better, in my opinion. They kill them the same number of shots.
Joe Arnold, speaking of secondaries, Joe Arnold, thoughts on sniper reticles? What do you prefer? How would you improve them?
Give us customizable reticle colors. The palette right now
A la
is a
COD.
a la COD, but it makes like here's the problem is that the palette of Destiny is brown, green, blue, these pastel colors, right? They're not all pastels, but they're lighter. Like, and then what do? The freaking reticle is white.
It's one of the reasons why the
dog
Hawkeye ones are so nice. Is because it's this bright
It's dark.
orange.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
That's true.
So
bright
being able
orange.
to change the reticle to some other color, and I'm colorblind, and I lose that reticle all the time. All the time it's gone like into the ether of space, and when I'm aiming out on Burning Shrine, forget it, man. Like that reticle, you might as well. I mean, I actually when Trials is on Burning Shrine, I put a little piece of tape on my monitor,
You cheater.
so that I can see the black spot instead of the reticle. I can see the little black dot as to where the reticle should be. That's how lost I get on Burning Shrine.
I used to put a small corner of a Post-it note just on the direct center of the screen, and that would work pretty well.
Incidentally, if you get a gaming monitor, I mean, some gaming monitors have that feature that you can turn on and off.
Yep. You'll put an overlay on your screen of the exact center.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cheating.
Yep.
It's cheating.
It's
is.
how
Unless you're
That's
colorblind.
totally
it's
cheating.
how is that cheating? How is that cheating?
Because you know when you're about to zoom in, you know exactly where your sniper reticle is going to land.
Yeah, it takes the feel out of quickscoping. But back to the question of the reticles.
God.
Back to the questions of the reticles. Yeah, I know.
All right.
I know you want to run away with that.
right.
But back to the questions of the reticles. For me, the biggest issue is that there's so many good snipers out there that no one uses because the reticles are so garbo. Because what they've done is on a precision rifle, they've given you this giant circle instead of a singular dot. I don't want to see the space around the guy's head. That's not what I want outlined. I want to know exactly the point, the location where my bullet is going. And some people argue, yeah, well, some rifles have that sort of, that circle around it in real life. And that's true, sort of those ACOG sights, but those are made for running and gunning, both eyes open, and it's not on precision rifles. Precision rifles always have crosshairs. There's always a clear indicator in the middle of the screen where it's going. And that's what I want.
Which specific sniper reticles do you guys prefer? Ambush?
Ambush.
I prefer
Short
ambush.
gaze.
Yeah.
Short game?
Actually,
I've
truthfully,
been using.
I prefer the little dot center thing on the Taxus, but then I hate everything else about the Taxus.
Taxus was my jam in year one. Ambush and short gaze has become the norm. Just because, it's very difficult when you're playing on both systems, and the drop rates for weapons are so low. You really have to just go with what the Vanguard gives you.
Yeah. I like that one that's on the Omelan Irene.
I like
It's
the Omelan too. Yeah.
It almost looks like it belongs on like a assault rifle. It's just like a
Yeah.
hollow
The
sight.
SS1.
You talking about
Yes,
the Falcon?
I don't
SS1.
remember the name of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's the Falcon.
I think it's
the
the
Falcon.
Falcon.
It's almost like an ACOG scope. But in
I kind of like the Yapaki.
What's that?
I was to say, I kind of like the Yapaki. It zooms in a little bit further, but it's got a singular, a smaller circle.
The
I
equivalent.
like that one. There's that one too.
Brian at Hello Geeks PSN. With the patch notes, are you disappointed that Iron Banner legendary drop rates were not discussed? Will you play Iron Banner knowing this? I'm not thinking about Iron Banner at all right now. Like,
Yeah,
not
Iron
even
Banner
on my
is
radar. I'll
clear
talk to you
gone.
at the end of the month when that becomes a thing again.
Sorry, I imagine this week they didn't want to talk about Iron Banner drop rates at all. They'll probably talk. They may talk about that closer to when Iron Banner is supposed to be going on.
I hope
becomes more
they
relevant.
address it and I get more.
Absolutely, they need to.
Right, Pope?
Yeah,
I'm feeling you.
I don't want 6
Well, okay,
pairs of pants.
so
I
Leaf-
want 12.
Check this out. Okay, Pope.
Playing with fire, Pope.
Check this out. I think it was very telling having Leaf talk about that, how it was not intended to play like 6-10 hours and not see a single ghost drop.
Right.
Like he said, like,
That's not supposed to happen.
that's unintentional.
Right.
Like that was not his design philosophy. So it does make me wonder if the whole loot table system in their code is slightly bugged in some way. Like some sort of hiccup happens, and then the percentages get adjusted for, there's a ghost in the machine.
It's
There's a
super
ghost in my
frustrating. I
machine.
haven't gotten that ghost yet. I'd really like one. Bootneck98 at Thomas Parker 64. How much would you pay for a Rambo-tailored throwing knife? Rainbow-tailed throwing knife. Rainbow-tailored. No, rainbow-tailed throwing knife. So you throw the
Rainbow-tailed.
throwing knife, and like a rainbow goes through the air behind it. How
I'd
much
spend
would you
$2
pay?
on that.
Give me a number.
I dropped $2 on that.
$2?
If it was $10, I'd be like,
You might be at first, but eventually you'd break down.
nah.
I'd go $4.99.
Although you're right. You're right.
$4.99.
What if it went woohoo like Mario flying through the air?
$10.
Yeah.
$10, absolutely.
Yeah,
out
go.
of
$10.
my wallet.
$10.
And if you hit a headshot, it went hee hee.
Confetti.
How about you got the children? Yeah, hey, the children from Halo.
Like in
where you
Reach.
got a
God, that was the
headshot.
best part. Like grunt birthday party.
Confetti
yeah.
bursts out.
Birthday party.
Yeah, that was the best
That would
part.
be so awesome.
Diogo at Guizo. Is it worth it to buy the Taken King now?
Well, it's worth it more than any other time.
I think you could get it for like $40, like
Yeah.
the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, you're getting a deal.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a lot
I'd
of
say right
content
now,
for
definitely.
You
$40.
could get it for cheaper than that. You can get it for like sometimes it's on
30.
sale for like 20.
Oh,
Really?
yeah.
I saw
Seriously.
it for 30, but yeah.
Wait, you forgot about the $25 or $30 class boost, though. Kappa.
You get by the fist pump emote.
Oh,
A lot
yeah.
of hidden costs.
Emotes. Yep.
Paul Pisagno at Pisagno Paul. Any tips for a soon-to-be dad judging Destiny addiction? How do you do it?
Lots of back rubs and making dinner and being just nicer than you've ever been.
You gotta make your family a priority. Absolutely, always. And sometimes that means sacrificing raid night with the boys. But you can do both, and you can invest in both. That's absolutely true. But the healthier your marriage is, and the healthier your relationships with your children are, the more they are going to allow you to have hobbies like this. So first and foremost, you make sure they know every day that they're loved and valued, and they will reciprocate that in allowing you to have things like this.
That's a great answer. True. I recommend starting a YouTube channel, making it your job, bringing home a paycheck, and then say, I'm going to work. That's how I would do it if I were to do it.
I'm not a dad that I know of, but gotta say, you should definitely teach them to instill a hatred for Thorn players.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
So a funny story. I was in the kitchen making dinner, and I could hear my son playing Iron Banner the other day, and he
dropped the F-bomb, didn't he?
he was talking crap about like the other team, and he was just spitting out stuff that I say. So big, if you're a new dad, make sure that you're if your kid starts to play, make sure that little pitchers have big ears, and make sure that what you say online, you want to model it. And good gaming, good etiquette is always important. Model good behavior. Because I went, I walked in from the tell him dinner was ready, and I saw him teabagging a guy he just killed. So
I'm sorry.
I was just like, no.
Sorry,
You should have told him that people who teabag lose the feeling of their thumbs as they get older.
Santa hates
can't
teabaggers.
Yeah.
Santa hates
Santa hates
If you
teabag.
teabag, I mean, you're not gonna get a.
You're not going to believe what's in your stocking.
Wow.
Lord Pradith at Tubo86. Chicago or New York style pizza?
Okay, first of all, Chicago
Gluten-free.
style pizza isn't pizza. It's a pie with cheese.
Literally,
on
the
top.
next word after pizza is pie. Pizza pie.
Yeah, that's wrong. It's pizza, not a pizza pie.
Yeah, you can send all your hate to Patrick at PlanetDestiny.
I was on the fence, but now I'm going to go with Chicago style.
I don't see my option there, but I like thin crust pizzas.
New
So
York.
Is that a New York style?
That's more. It's more New York.
all
New
right.
York is you get the big. It's face. It's like the size of your face. It's big and flat, and then you fold it in half, and then you shove it down your throat. It's great. The Chicago deep dish pizza is just, oh man, look up.
You got to eat it with a fork.
Yeah, you gotta like use a fork and knife. That ain't eating a pizza.
But it's
And it's like
delicious.
half soupy dough with cheese on top, and it doesn't know if it wants to be, a
Sounds delicious.
It is
Oh my
delicious.
a bread bowl at Panera with soup in it.
The crust tastes like it's almost fried in butter.
Love it. Oh my god, I
It's
miss.
pretty
Now I'm
good.
so
Chicago
hungry.
style
Wish I could have
pizza
it.
is a commitment though. Like when you're going out to dinner, it's 45 minutes before that pie's ready.
Yeah, and then
And
half
you're not
of it's
doing
not
shit
even
after
cooked.
you
The
eat it.
dough's still all doughy on the inside.
And you're going to the wrong places.
Yeah, you're going to the
Patrick.
wrong place.
You're going to the wrong places.
the old Chicago, because that's the
gonna
only
be-
place in
gonna be a
Nashville you
little
can probably
heavy,
get a
too.
decent one. I don't know. I'm probably gonna get some hate mail for that one too. But yeah.
Demonolith999 at Jesse Lazenby. Do you think they should nerf or tone down the res sniping in PvP?
I think that the person who reses shouldn't get a res shield.
So no.
Basically, no. I think they need to.
Well, I mean, I think this affects it. This
Yeah,
this
it
affects
is.
it.
It's
Like,
it's two sides of the same conversation, right? Because
like I don't think you shouldn't be able to res snipe. Like, you should definitely be able to res snipe, and it's within your control. If you died out in the open, you had control over the fact that you went out in the open, got shot, and died.
Yeah.
And then your teammate has the option of, rushing, trying to res you and push you out of the way or something like that. But I also think that when both of them get res shields, I think that's overpowered.
I think it is
Personally.
too. And I don't think you can. If you were to get rid of those shields, then maybe you could get rid of res sniping. But having those shields is the only equalizer you have against it, right? Is those shields are so powerful. Having two people with overshields all of a sudden rushing at you. Thank God
Yeah,
there's red sniping. Otherwise, you'd be fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can
I'm
actually flip
actually-
it can flip the tile right there. or
Yeah,
the-
absolutely. It rewards you for being the team that died. I'm actually a proponent for no shields not for the reviver or the revivee. I think that the fact that you can pick them back up is an equalizer in a sense. You have the option to sort of manage the engagement in a way that is, in your favor to get that revive. If you revive them in the open, that's on you. But the fact is you can revive them, and then it's a 2v, maybe 1. So that's enough of an advantage in and of itself. And when you take away those overshields, you promote more weapon diversity. Because right now, all you see is 1,000-yard stare. Why? People have to res snipe. You take away that overshield, people may be more inclined to use some different sniper rifles. I would love to see more snipers represented.
Also, the type of, or the red shields, and the fact that special ammo isn't going to really be there on the first round for a while. If a team is able to, kind of get someone to die in an advantageous place, you can then rush with primaries and overshields. That's a very powerful thing when you can't counteract it with any type of res sniping either.
Yeah, you're not gonna have supers ready to go or anything.
Yeah.
So our chat wants to, tell us that 75% of our chat thinks that New York style pizza is better than Chicago.
And 75% of our chat is damn right. Thank you, chat.
Just throwing that out there.
DXG Aqua at DXG Aqua. How do you feel about the Shade Step cancel, exploit or not? This has been around on Twitter a lot lately. People arguing this.
Yeah, I think that pulling out a ghost to cancel an animation, I think that this is getting over dramatized just because honestly how many people do it and how many people do it well. But at the same time, I think that it is a glitch. And the people who do it really, really well basically just even further separate that skill gap between them and the unlucky sap that gets match made against them.
Lumi.
Lumi.
All right, that's all I got for Twitter questions. That was it. That was the last one.
That was the
I didn't
last
realize it
one?
was the last one until I looked at the thing again and said, "Oh wait, that was the last one."
Well, I think we had I really enjoyed this podcast today. I really appreciate Leif coming on, and Vanguard, you're awesome, man. I want to be able to go and get a tutorial from you on how to do those snipes that you do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it seems so easy, but I try it and I can't. I get just destroyed.
Yeah, where can we go find tutorials on how to properly snipe? Is there a school
There
for
it
this?
I actually have a playlist called Sniper School on my YouTube
What?
channel.
That's the call.
And
That was
if
the
you
proper
want-
segue. I know. That's why I said it.
Yeah.
Shh.
And if you wanted to take it even further and do the Sky Sniper setup, there's a playlist for that as well.
You got a montage
Awesome.
on that. I told you earlier. I showed the kids that, and everybody was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
really
that
cool montage.
That montage was so well received. I was
awesome.
really floored by how well received it was. It was well over, it's approaching 150,000 views. It hasn't been out 2 weeks. So for me, size of my channel, that's crazy.
That's awesome,
So
man.
shout out to the community for receiving that.
I like when you do videos.
So
you did a
well.
video today. I like when you do videos like this. Is you just played out an entire Crucible match and just explained your thought process as you went through the match, just the decisions you were making. I love videos like that, and I thought that was a really good one.
Appreciate that.
All right, so I guess we're gonna end the podcast. Yes.
I think so.
All right. Well, that was the 57th Planet Destiny podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been Patrick Casey. You know where to find me. PlanetDestiny.com. Doing stuff. Destiny usually.
I'm Briar Rabbit. You can find me on Twitter at the Briar Rabbit or on YouTube on the Briar Rabbit channel or streamed right here on Planet Destiny's Twitch page.
And I am Tefty Teft. You can talk to me at Teft on Twitter. You can catch the streams that I do for Planet Destiny on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday evenings. And then also my personal channel, twitch.tv/Tefty Teft.
And this has been Pope Bear. You can find me always throughout the week talking about Destiny on my Twitter page. It's at Pope Bear. And then I stream on the Planet Destiny channel. Sorry, it sounded like I was gonna say
It
something
sounded
else.
like you were going to say something.
Yeah.
So I was
I was going to, but then I
Oh,
just
okay.
stopped, and then
He
I
had pizza on the
screwed it
brain.
up.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Well, I'm True Vanguard. You can find me on Twitter, The True Vanguard. You can find me on Twitch. We're partnered. We got emotes and all that fun business. That's Twitch/The True Vanguard. I also stream Monday nights for Planet Destiny, often with Holtzman
we
himself.
do stuff.
And you can find me on YouTube. Just search True Vanguard. You'll find me.
Well, thank you very much, True Vanguard. Thank you very much, Leif, for coming on and spending some time with us as well. And that was the 57th Planet Destiny podcast. We will see you guys next week.
Yay.
Bye.
Yay!